Hello, citizens of Sunnybridge, and welcome back to our cooperative world building stream. We're on session 10, and we've got a very, very special session for you. I've got two wonderful guests, as you can see on your screens below me, who were present at the mock session 0 that I held earlier on this week, and they're here to discuss how the session went. They're going to discuss our campaign setting, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of running a session 0. So hopefully, as a group, we can learn a little bit more about the process and benefit from their experiences outside of our campaign and how they apply to our campaign and how well it ran, basically. So I'm going to intro them quickly, just because they're sort of sat there waiting. We've got Edie, please. Eddie D's joining us, and you all know Robbie B down the bottom there. He's our fastest moderator in the West, but maybe have not seen his beautiful face before. So hello, guys.
Hello.
And thank you for joining me. Obviously, there were 4 people present at the campaign. Entirely grateful to them as well for joining in. We've just got the 2 to give us some feedback today, because we didn't want like too many people trying to like crosstalk and stuff. But yeah, how did you guys enjoy the session? I mean, I had fun. It was a little bit awkward to start with, actually.
Yeah, I felt kind of like I was kind of outside. You know what I mean? Coming in, like you knew everyone. Everyone knew everyone. So I was like that one player that gets invited to the table that's new. So he's unsure of how like
he's really full of promise.
You're unsure. Yeah, exactly. So you're unsure of how far. And you know me, I talk. And when I talk and I start, I don't stop. I'm doing it right now. So what happened was I was like, hey, I don't want to go too much overboard and like take too much control of this whole chat thing. So I tried to take it back, but I had my moments now and then where I, get a bit ranty. So
yeah, no, it was good, man.
Good. Good. That's it. I mean, if we're gonna have a one-word review, then good's a good one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, good's a great one.
So just like a brief introduction for anyone who maybe is here for the first time. We've had 9 of you raising in from my answer. So hello everyone. Welcome. We're running like a cooperative world building stream here. So we're working as a group, me and chat, and we started from literally nothing to build our own custom campaign setting for running. We're working on the premise that we're running D&D 5th edition, but in theory you could run any system with it. So we started from like the bare basics and have created our own world from scratch. And then now that we've got a basis for our world, it still needs some fleshing out, but we're most of the way there. We're now at a point where we're starting to plan actual sessions for sessions to run this campaign in person. And I discussed a lot during the early days when we were building the campaign I talked a lot about session 0, which I know is not necessarily the way that everyone introduces a campaign. And so I thought it'd be a really interesting thought exercise for me to run the session 0 when we got to that point for like a mock D&D group, and then to get some feedback from them to sort of let us know from like a player's perspective whether they felt that was an interesting way for them to be introduced to a campaign setting, rather than like the classic, what I would consider the classic, like the old school, like turning up with a character sheet and maybe working out some of the relationships and things in post when you've arrived and have met the other players. So we spent probably the past 4 streams now. We were working on our session 0, and that was like creating handouts and things for the players, and just really like ironing out the creases of our campaign so that it was ready to be put in front of an audience. And then on Wednesday this week, I ran that session for 4 players, these 2 lads included, and we recorded that. And so what we're going to do today is I've got some highlights is probably the wrong word, but some clips of the session that was recorded on Wednesday. Obviously, I can't play the whole thing because we were there for like 4 hours. And then I've got these 2 are going to be here for sort of questions and like just discussion in general about how the session went. And thank you very much, Friendly Ed, for following.
I had to hit that follow, dude. I hadn't followed yet.
I know.
There he is. There he is. Yeah, I didn't know what your name was. I didn't know what your username was.
That's fair enough.
Apparently, it's the same as your Discords.
It's exactly the same as
Yeah.
I'm doing that, like I'm amalgamating everything. In fact, I've got to show you this. I got given this today as a belated birthday present from someone.
A belated birthday present.
Yeah, and it's like I'm like drinking out of a branded mug and
Oh,
everything.
Yes.
Listen, it was my birthday last April, and I got a T-shirt with a logo on it. I won't say what of, obviously, but like I got my own merch, my Ed merch.
Got your own IP, right? That's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a little awkward because you're like, am I that guy? Am I the guy? Do I buy my own? Do I buy my own merch? But I'm willing
There's a really good trick. There's a really good trick with it. I mean, you use Streamlabs, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You can have it set up so that you only pay manufacturing costs if you make sales. So you end up just giving a cut to Streamlabs and then can make money from your merch. So you can make merch for free, essentially.
Oh, that's like, so you're drop shipping basically, yeah, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. But
I think that's potentially a long way off for me. But I'm here for the good times and the learning, right?
Mm. But man, is there if I add into like the session 0 thing?
Yeah, go. Like,
I'd like saying, like, modern day times and with D&D and stuff, as a DM and as a player, I don't think I would. I mean, I'm in a personal game where we didn't have a session 0, but I think a session 0 is almost essential. I think it's like there's so many benefits and no cons to it. But doing the other approach, the more old style approach of just coming up with a character sheet, I think it has some fun to it, some mystique to it, but it can lead to player derision. It can lead to conflict of interest in player party composition, expectations of what the campaign's going to be in the long haul and the long run. I think if you get a session 0, everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone knows what they want to be, where they want to be, when they do it, and what the world's all about. It just makes a more fluid and dynamic game, in my opinion.
So that's a very interesting point, right? Because without burying the lead on all the things we're going to discuss going down the line, like I tried to build a party of players who would bring very different personal experiences into the campaign, so that the feedback we could get would be as like wholesome as possible, right? So, and you're the person who I picked out as someone who's like, obviously, as a just on like a social level, you're very out there and like a very confident person to talk to and stuff. But then in terms of D&D, like you've got quite a lot of experience DMing and DMing 5th edition
5 years
specifically. Now. And contrary to my experiences, you've got a lot of experience in DMing online, which is something that
majority of my experience is online. Some in person, but much more online. So I've actually played different systems more in person than D&D, but exclusively mostly D&D online.
And so the other players, there's basically no DM experience amongst the other players, and they all represent kind of varying degrees of play experience. So Nathan, who was very quiet for most of the session, is you could essentially attribute that to being his first experience of D&D, almost. Like he has played before, but like a long time ago, and not for like a sustained.
Right.
He's done a couple of sessions, like he's dipped his toes, and that was it was actually a conscious decision to have someone he was like the perfect person, because I didn't want to waste because we're not really playing D&D, we were just doing like a mock session. I didn't want to waste anyone's time with like if there was that part of the session where I have to explain how to make a character sheet to someone. He knew enough that he'd be able to just sit on D&D Beyond and work that out for himself without taking up too much people's time. And Robbie B, the absolute hero, dived in virtually last minute because there was a dropout, which classic D&D. The perfect party. We had someone not turn up, and Rob came in to fill in. So very grateful for that as well.
Not a problem.
Are you still modding today, Rob? Are you still on hand for? Are you signed
I've got the chat open here.
Got the ban hammer ready.
got to beat some personal bests of like.
Yeah, you gotta get him
5
quick
second
bans
bannings.
off. Hey, 24-hour ban permanent. I got some really good mods that I know that like do a good job. So you gotta really show off Robbie today.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not.
As soon as I
it's not a
see someone being
competition,
rude in that chat, I want him out. I want him gone.
Give them whiplash. I almost want a spam bot to appear just so that you can see how fast.
Well, what you want to do, Robbie, is a mod, right? In your mod view, you want to go into your banned and permitted terms, and anytime you get like a spam bot in there, just put that as the banned term, like whatever they spam in the chat, and then they'll just never get through. They'll never get through. You don't even need to do it.
The fun bit is now is that I've never actually done it on browser.
Ah, right,
I'm always on my phone. So
yeah.
On his phone as well. On his phone.
On a mobile moderation, that's like next level. Mobile moderation, ladies and gentlemen. If I could, compressors hiding the round of applause. You can hear it, but it makes sound. There we go, Roy. This is for you.
Cheers,
mobile moderator. There you go. People probably thinking,
I'll figure it out when it happens.
Another follow, Remarkable Re. Thank you very much for the follow.
Remarkable Re.
Yeah, remarkable indeed. We're gonna get into some. I went to and froed from whether I was gonna like how much, and oh my god, Zilligan 4IK23. Hope I pronounced that right. Ruby, I am the law. Yeah, so to and froed about how regimented I wanted this kind of episode, I guess, to be. And I kind of settled on Up Alone. Thank you very much. The hungry Schmelin. Thank you very much for the follows. You're all too kind. Yeah, so because of the week I've had basically with getting all this organised, which has been a lot of work, a lot more work than I thought it would be. Right. I thought, let's just take it easy, right? Let's just have this be like a chilled out. I'm interested mostly in like your guys' feedback and what have you. So like we're just gonna play Lakira 1. Thank you very much. I've got 4 segments to play, I guess. One's like the intro, like just the basic, all of the semantic stuff that we did at the beginning, and then we went into world, like discussing the world in general. Hello everyone. And then there's a video I've titled Exceptional because it started off with a brief monologue from Eddie about exceptional players, right?
Did it?
Yeah, it was good. And then I think we're just going to use, so there's the last video is like 15 minutes long, and that's the majority of you guys actually like really finishing off your characters at the end. And I think I'm just going to sort of play that. I thought it'd be nice to play that as like an outro for the episode.
Yeah. So we're just going to be watching the clips and then like commentating on what our thought processes and stuff, right?
Yeah. So
yeah. Do I need to like unmute your stream to see him, or are we going to see him in the Discord, or like? Oh wait, no, we can watch your stream in the Discord.
Yeah, that was what I.
This happened last time. I'm so sorry. I'm a Discord noob.
I've only just remembered and done that myself as well.
Excellent.
That's fine.
Here we are.
Fine. So the first clip's just kind of going through the semantic stuff, which is like it's kind of like the least entertaining to watch, but it's the most relevant to what we're talking about here in a way, because it's the parts of running a session 0 that you may not have considered, like just what we're doing for leveling up and stuff that it's good to establish with your players before you start. So and as a brief note, it was a little bit awkward to start, and I don't know if that's part of it. I think is me not being as used to the format of running D&D online.
I want to take a little bit of responsibility. I just felt so reticent to say anything because I felt like an outsider and I didn't want to talk over everyone. Because you know what I can be like. You know I'm a big like too many cooks sort of thing. Like it's one of the reasons I can't actually play in a friend's game of mine as a DM because he DMs in a way that like I don't really enjoy to play in. And when that happens, we sort of we butt heads. We don't exactly argue or have any problems, but there's a lot of head butting. It's just not compatible. So when I came into this like session 0 and no one was talking, I thought like if I was quieter, right, and waited to get them going, maybe they get going a bit more. maybe the opposite would have been
I
better.
know, so I think there was like an element of obviously we were recording, right? And that's not something that everyone's going to be imminently comfortable with, right? And I think that played a lot of, because I know Ginny and Nathan were very quiet for like the most of the, and I know them personally. Like if we'd been in person and sat playing, like it didn't matter that we didn't necessarily all know each other that well. Like that both of those would have been more comfortable talking. And so I think some of it's that, and like obviously there's no way to do this without that being a present threat, I guess. But it didn't in the end it didn't really hamper us getting like a result out of the experience. I think it just made.
Yeah, I mean we got there in the end, right?
Yeah, we got over the line in the end in quite an entertaining fashion, I think. So
yeah, it was unique.
Stick around to find out why.
Stick around to find out why. Yeah. So if you guys are ready, I'm just gonna jump into video.
Yeah. And we'll hear it by looking in the Discord, right?
I hope so.
I hope so too, dude. I hope so too, my friend.
All right, let's go. So, welcome, friends, to this D&D campaign. You're all here because you've all ticked the box for I want to play D&D, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of enthusiasm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Yes. A lot of this stuff's like negotiable, so I'm going to tell you kind of what my defaults are, because I'm the DM, right, and I get first say. But like none of this is set in stone. It's all kind of negotiable if you've got something you'd rather do. I'm going to start first level in this fantastic campaign setting that we've been creating on stream. Those of you who've played in my campaigns probably aware that like I tend to run pretty low fantasy because that's what comes naturally to me. I'm a Lord of the Rings boy, right? So I tend to run campaigns where like magic's exists and everyone knows it exists, but it's sort of hard to come by. In terms of leveling, I'm probably going to run milestone leveling unless anyone's got any like strong preferences.
No, that's my usual go-to as well.
Yeah. I tend to run like pretty social D&D. Like I like combat, but I like to mix it up with like a decent checker, like probably like 60% combat and 40% like RPing in a social setting and stuff. Like, and we've built. It'll become apparent, particularly if you're a wrestling fan, Nathan, that there's a lot of like very cheap dry puns in the campaign setting. So like it's going to be a very comic campaign, right? Lot of yucks and penis jokes and stuff, probably.
Yucks and penis jokes. I didn't need to ask you that. Like, are we going comical? Are we going serious? You know, you don't want to be like too edgy, like Aragorn, like Strider versus penis jokes.
So that's kind of a flavour of what to expect if that's the kind of campaign everyone's going to enjoy playing in. That's like my pitch for the campaign, I guess, just as a general experience for everyone.
So your pitch is penis jokes with a little bit of seriousness.
Absolutely, yeah, that's it. Yeah. And if you find it's getting too down in the gutter, then let me know. You know, like it's all this is a cooperative storytelling experience, right? And you guys having fun's the most important thing, right? That whole spiel. So I don't want anyone to feel like they can't talk to me if they want to change the direction of the campaign or anything. That's just a general note.
Okay, I'm not usually a penis joke main, but you know,
Yeah.
I got no issue about it, and you know, I'll go with the group.
This is the bit where, you know, if this wasn't a sad story of a D&D campaign that was doomed to never actually exist, where we'd go over a schedule. So can we all agree that we're going to play 7 times a week at 6
Certified
PM
free.
every night? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Is that the norm?
365. Yeah.
For me to get involved, how many vials of blood do you need?
We'll talk about that later on, right? There's a very
okay.
specific requirement for sacrifice, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm down though. I don't even need to know.
So the campaign setting itself, we've got a lovely little map here of a region. Robbie B knows a lot about this already, but we've focused heavily on the southern part of this map. You'll find that the world that you're entering now is a kingdom that is currently transitioning over to being run by a senate, right? And the details of that transition are kind of for you to explore if you want. You'll know that the king has basically decided to hand over power to the empire, right? Because he can't be bothered with all the minutiae of ruling, but they've worked out this kind of deal where he still gets to be king. As you travel the lands, you'll find people with differing opinions on whether that's like a good or a bad thing. I've got a haiku for you.
Haiku.
An actual
Let's
haiku.
go.
We're going to write a descriptive bit of text to explain like a little bit of the backstory of the world. And Pontus Godsworth himself decided that we were gonna do that in the form of a haiku. So if I may have your ears for just a moment, this is tense. This is important for me. I want to do this justice, right? Like Flareford is king, as control slips from his grasp. How will our party react? Spearpoint Garrison stands to attention in the east. Under the imposing forts, it's a town destitute. Now change is afoot, not a moment too soon. But a loyalist core remains. Remember the past, but look to the future. In the Senate we must believe. Decisions are left unto you. And now, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
And now a moment for the group to regain your composure. You want to go get a tissue or whatever.
Yeah. Wipe the tear away.
Did that start with saying about Flair?
Reich Flareford is the name of the king.
I thought you said Ric Flair is the king. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
There's the first one,
There's
right?
the one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You're in straight away. You're probably not going to find an NPC that isn't named after an obscure wrestler from like the 80s or 90s. So
Is it like a legendary wandering figure called the Ultimate Warrior?
There could well be. I don't want to
Yeah.
give too much away at this early
The
stage.
last boss.
We're going to start our campaign in Sunnybrid. Map in the top right. That's like the regional map. Sunnybrid is the town on the coast, right in the south, and it's like a poor fishing town. It's like it runs trade between the city to the northeast and directly to the north, and the people there survive based on the fishing trade. It's quite a poor town. Most of the people there are like breadline or fish line, if you will, right? And it is the last town in the kingdom to go through the process of the power shift. So in the northeast, if we're looking at this bigger map in the middle, there's a garrison called Spear Point Garrison, which right as we speak, the king's forces that occupy the garrison are in the process of like turning over control to a Senate force that have come to like relieve them of their post. So you will find people who live in this town who are loyalist, but for the most part, most people are just welcoming of the change because it's change, and like if you're struggling to get by right now, like it can't get much worse, right?
Yeah, maybe they build a marina. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, exactly. That's Sunnybrid. That's our starting town. There's a statue of King Reich Flairford that sits in the centre of the town, and locals aren't sure whether it's going to get taken down and replaced, or whether it's going to stay there as like one last vestige of the monarchy. The innkeeper is a devout loyalist man. So that's kind of just an overview of the town. That's where we're going to start our campaign, and it's going to be up to you guys to decide how you've arrived there, or whether you've been there the whole time, or whatever. When you create characters, you tell me, right? It's your story too. So just have a think about what the story arc is for your characters, right? And whether like you could be from Sunnybrid or what have you.
Yeah, from Sunnybrid, and you want to see Reynard Mysterio statue put up instead. If the town is like, lower class, a lot of banditry, a lot of oppression from crime and such, like, is there like an underbelly? Is there like a group of criminal individuals that want to maintain it not being under this new shift because they're benefiting from the instability or anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah, very much so. There's exactly that. There's a very famous character in town called Wan Yolo, who's a bit of a smuggler.
Okay, yeah.
And he's
is he got a companion?
He hasn't.
No,
not that we know of, right? Maybe
Okay.
maybe you could meet him down the line.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. So that was our intro.
Puagnolo.
I forgot to say it ahead of this, but I've got to put in a little asterisk that I thought I knew what I was doing with editing videos. Do not know what I'm doing with editing videos. So
Hey, don't worry. I can't edit for crap.
the next one won't be in 720p. I'm telling you, it's going to be 1080. But I think
1080.
so. I went through.
Is that a promise?
That's a promise.
That's a promise.
If RoosPls is one thing, it's confident, right?
It's a Roos guarantee.
It's a Roos guarantee for you. We're coming in at 1080 next time. I know. So I went through once through all the, because I think it was like 5 videos that because I was terrified I was going to miss a bit, so I kept like cutting it and like restarting the recording. I went through all of them one time, and I just clipped out like obvious bits that weren't going to be in it, like if anyone went to go get something to eat or whatever, or to go get a drink.
I just ate on stream.
Yeah,
Like, I'm eating right
Eddie,
now.
Eddie, the talent was a nightmare.
He's eating.
He just like halfway through a sentence, he'd be like, "Right, I'm back in a second," and he'd be gone for like 15 minutes, you know. Yeah, so I did like the basic, and I think when I exported those videos, the first run through, I exported them in 720, and then I was looking at them like the second time to do like the meat and potatoes editing, I like to call it, and it was like I was looking at the quality like, no, I was dragging. I don't know what I'm doing, which is going to become apparent over the next 13 seconds, right? I was dragging the videos into my project, and I was dragging them onto the like template for the video, and they were coming in like, you know, like the top left quadrant of the screen, like like stretching them out to fit the screen. I was like, this is awful. But do you know what? It took so long just to go through the first. We're recording for hours and just go through like and trim out the, you know, people picking the noses and stuff.
Dude, I'm like dreading having to learn how to edit. I'm dreading it. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give it a college try, but
we can do it together. We can do
hold hands, maybe.
Editing Thursdays or whatever, and like.
Yeah. Hold hands while we do it to get emotional strength through it.
That's you know, that's the. I'll tell you what. I'll start another stream, and it'll be a cooperative editing experience, right? And we'll talk about
the branding's there for me, right? Editing,
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe you should do it. I'm not. Clearly, you're more qualified than I am.
Next year, friendly_editor.
Nice. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
So that's a RoosPls exclusive, you know. Someone clip that hot news, right?
You won't hear it. You won't hear it anywhere else. Let me tell you.
Need an explosion button.
Oh, do you know what? I'm gonna get a stream deck one day and get all the like klaxon noises.
Dude, my soundboard's set up right here. If only it could come through, you know.
You could add klaxons on my behalf.
Right.
Nice.
There you go.
RobyPls a bit of a sound effects board himself, and he's gonna hate me for saying that while he's being streamed across the world, right? Is that the guy from the Police Academy?
I told a story.
That is the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me ever.
You were there, right? You were there, Robbie, when I told the story about you and the champagne bottle and then the wall.
That Prosecco.
Yeah, I shared that with my little family, and without your consent, admittedly. But it was a very memorable moment in my life. Like I can't forget what I saw. I try, but I can't forget it.
I mean, the video's on YouTube, so if I had a problem with you telling the story, then
dude, it was impressive and terrifying.
Well, you weren't feeling it, man. It was like, you know, Alien right before the chest burst.
I could see there was something going on there, gastronomical, something.
Rob, do you want to fill in the blanks for everyone who's watching?
Not particularly.
I don't think it needs telling. It was just a bit of madness. It was a bit of madness.
There, man.
What was it? People started singing the song. You know, the famous adage, "We like to drink with blank because blank is our mate." And when we drink with blank, they finish it in 8, 7, 6. And Robbie just had a bottle of Prosecco in his hand, and he thought, you know what? Oh, take it down. Don't clip that, by the way. Don't clip that, by the way.
Yeah, do clip that.
There's already enough of that smut on my end.
I will not contribute to more of that on the internet.
Oh dear. But yeah.
And
then I watched him recovering for like 15 minutes against the wall. But you know,
you would need recovery time, wouldn't you?
I couldn't have done it. He passed the constitution check in the end, barely though.
Nice segue back into D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but like while we're talking about editing, that's a good thing to mention. Like I was a lot of editing stuff out, right? There was so many tangents where either me or you would just start like a long diatribe about DMing, and those conversations. So for anyone watching, like at some point I'm going to re-edit all the footage and make one full session and put that probably on YouTube somewhere where we can all enjoy Eddie's mustache, right? And In 1080 actually, because
Listen.
I'll use the original. I use the
There's a
original
man
recording.
underneath the damn mustache. All right.
Yeah, well, yeah. So and it'll be 1080 because I'll use the original footage, not like the first version where I clip stuff down. I won't make that mistake again. But there's a lot of. It was kind of awkward because I was trying to. We're doing this for a reason, right? And we're here to talk about session 0, right? And the pros and cons and how it's used as a device for DMs and like why we think that a DM should run one and how to, right?
Yeah.
But then me and you were having like these long conversations about D&D that were relevant information that would be useful for someone who's maybe hasn't DM'd before. And then I was having to trim it out because I was like, because it's just
it's not pertinent.
It wasn't pertinent to the exact topic now, but it is pertinent overall. So that I endeavour to ensure that information is available because it is.
I do that, by the way. I always come at it like from the perspective of a DM because I've always been the leader. So it's like it's hard for me to be a player. We discussed it. Like even in session 0s and stuff, I take like this role of like in a session 0, like for example when we played in person when it's set up, I became like not a DM, but I became like a middle management. So I was helping like half the group set up their character sheets and such and discuss it with them as if I was the DM underneath the DM and the DM was saying to me this and then I would pass this on to them and it was like
being like teacher's pet kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like being teacher's pet, but more so like just helping him get the message across. But yeah, teacher's pet. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was all fairly kind of self-explanatory, right? We wanted to establish early on the premise of what was going on in the campaign, right? And that for me is like the bread and butter of why you do session 0, because all the rest of the topics will naturally be covered. Like the next video is us talking more like in more depth about the world itself and giving the players information. A somehow nerdy prefect. Yeah.
I think there's more to it though than just that though, right? Than just the world, than just like the world and the setup and the lore and stuff. There's a thing that even comes in before that, which is like, for me, and again, if this is that thing I do where I go off on like my own thing, but it's to do with the session 0. Is like the expectations for the party, the comfortability zones and what they're willing to tread topically. Like perhaps they have issue with certain almost tropes or such from traumas in real life or personal issues with things. Maybe they don't want, like, for example, say we're playing a game together and one of the players wants to play a certain character sort of type the other person wouldn't be comfortable with. It's making sure that everyone on the table is comfortable with what they're going into, both emotionally, mentally, and politically almost. And I think that's the most important thing. The world introduction and the lore and the preparation is sick, but just making sure everyone is, I think the first and foremost important thing for me is that everyone is just comfortable, that everyone is not going to be offended, that is going to be cooperative and just enjoying themselves, never feeling awkward.
Yeah, right. So we had this awkward, well, not awkward, but this mistimed situation where there was I had a plan to talk about that in more detail as
right.
part of the intro, but because of the kind of unnatural way that the whole thing started, and the fact that I knew everyone in the party,
and I was late. My apologies again.
Oh,
I'll say it live. I'll say it live. I was late.
There was a computer delivery. There were mistakes made with how to boot up a PC. You know.
Yeah, I thought it didn't work. I just didn't plug it in.
That was it. What happened was it turned on but without the RGB and it was in his trailer.
Yeah, I needed the RGB. Did I tell you why it didn't work in the end? I just literally didn't plug it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Idiot.
Yeah, so I started without, and I kind of omitted that bit, and then I had to. We sort of snuck it in later down the line.
Yeah.
And I actually think now, because I would normally do that at the start, but I actually think where it came in the session became more natural, because like we sort of discussed at the time that it was kind of the thing that you didn't want to have this discussion with adults about how if other people are making you uncomfortable, that's not okay.
Yeah. But I think you kind of covered it when you were. I genuinely think you covered it when you were talking about penis jokes.
Well, yeah,
Like
yeah.
when
I kind of hinted on it, but then wasn't.
yeah.
We went into it into more detail later on, and I sort of said to everyone like the reason I'd kind of avoided it at the start is because of that reason. Like you think that,
yeah. You sort of talked about like being at the table, right? You gave the at the table when everyone sat around there. You sort of tell everyone's comfortable and such. Because I was talking about the Reddit approach, right? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and
Having to vet people.
But I think that like the fact that I kind of avoided it at the time and then did it later on was actually a learning experience for me, because I think it's actually more natural there. Because like waited until everyone was a little bit more comfortable at that point, and I think
you don't
especially
necessarily
in this situation, go on.
You don't necessarily have to bring it up. You can kind of like just do the session 0, play the session 0 out, and then think about it, evaluate it back. How was everyone? How did everyone sort of interact with one another? And you can pick it up. You don't actually have to directly bring it up. You know what I mean?
True.
You can just read the room, so to speak.
It is like we said, it's something that you would hope that people are aware of, and you shouldn't have to have that chat, but you kind of sometimes almost do.
You'd be surprised sometimes.
Yeah, we had a lot of. This is a lot of stuff that got trimmed out, right? We had a lot.
Don't talk about the summoner.
Kind of stuff. That's that kind of stuff. So, Robbie, right? Not to put you on the spot, but as a player, not a DM, I know you've actually not played in a campaign with Session 0, right?
No, I don't think we did a Session 0.
Don't worry about getting it wrong. It's not a quiz, right? Yeah. So what are your thoughts on kind of this new way of starting a campaign? Right. Every time I've DM'd campaign prior to this for you, it's just been like a turn up and play situation.
Yeah. It's very helpful. Obviously, you get all the like world building and stuff. You're not spending a session where you could be playing half of it, still trying to figure out where you are and what your goal is, who's good, who's bad, sort of thing. And the handouts as well, brilliant effect.
That's awkward for you to say that, because they were kind of your idea, weren't they? Some of them were yours.
No, I'm not talking about the content of them, just the handouts.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, is to make everyone feel like more equipped to.
It differs though, player to player, doesn't it? Like I've had players, and I've been the player where the DM sort of sometimes projects too much about being excited about the world that they've written, or I myself project a little bit too much about being excited about the world I've written, and I push it on the players who just don't give a crap. They just want to play the game. They just want to get involved. They want to learn as they do. But then you get the other type of players that they're all about the lore. They love to write it down. So it just differs person to person. It's a case by case. So you can't, give everyone 100% what they want. There's to be some acquiescence at the table and compromise.
If you're going into DMing expecting to do that, then you're setting yourself up for like.
There are types of DMs that I would refer to as they want to be authors, not DMs. They just don't know it, and they make their world, and they get very proud of their own world, and they push that pride onto other people, expecting them to enjoy it as much as they enjoy their own incredible creation. And in actuality, they railroad you. They take you down a path that they want you to go down, and you actually have no effect on the world, just the illusion of an effect on the world. And I refer to these DMs as people who should just write a book. They're not playing D&D. They're playing out their story the way they want it to go. Like they'll stop the boss from dying because magic, or they'll say, "Oh, that thing you thought you prevented happened anyway because it says so here on my script that it happens." I think that some people like to be railroaded. Some people like to be on like a Disney cinematic theme ride, right? Where they're just on the track and just enjoying what they see. But other people like to have an effect on a world. They like to communally build a story together that feels natural, like they actually had these effects. But in a session 0, you can really work out which you're getting into. And it isn't like black and white. There is obviously a spectrum of it. But
you're trying to find that. Like it's really enlightening as a DM to run the session 0 and take a step back and look at what the players are reacting to. And be like, oh, okay, these guys like, this is what your players will subconsciously, without you having to ask the question, will tell you what kind of campaign they want to play.
I think it's good to like preface, like give the foundation of everything. And then, like I said before, I think in the video, that and then when the players focus or lean towards specific concepts, ideas, factions, plot hooks in the world, extrapolate on them after. That's why a session 0 is really good. People even do this thing called a session 0.5, which is like a
That's meta.
yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a joke, but it's where like the players come together in the tavern and they talk and they introduce one another to each other. But they don't exactly they in a town or in a city or whatever, and they go about and they buy. I do it. So, for instance, when I ran Tomb of Annihilation, all of the players go to Chult, which is a peninsula in the south to deal with. You may have played it. You may have heard of it.
I've read it. I've not played.
Yeah. So when they all went to Chult, certain players were affiliated and already knew one another. Some were brothers, some were family. There was 2 brothers. There was separate individuals that were going there for their own reasons to convene under an agent. And I actually did a 30-minute session with each of them, arriving in Port Nyanzaru, which is where you arrive in Chult, and like just acclimating themselves to the town with their own specific agents, their own specific contacts, and then being sort of led to a tavern. They all had their own 30-minute episode where they had the little bit of exploration and preface where they got a hook themselves. Each of them got their own hook on a quest in the town. And then the session 1 happened where they all came together at the same time, and they all had this sort of gained information on the city and where they're going and what they're doing. So everyone had like a little bit of an idea, and they just had to bring it up to one another. So I that was a real success for me. It was the first time doing it.
Next week we're talking. Next week we're going to prep session 1.5, right?
Yeah, maybe. But it was really useful to do.
Yeah, so because that's the kind of thing. Obviously, I've never tried that before, and it's something I'll endeavour to try in the future. That's kind of the thing that, like, in my head, I not expect, right? But I think in my head that's what players would get up to between session 0, and session 1 is the whole like messaging each other in the group and saying like, oh,
yeah.
do we want to like? I mean, you in this specific session, you kind of all converged on already knowing each other, right? With
exactly.
one person who's new to the group, and then obviously there's a lot less to pass there, but you still have the opportunity between session 0 and session 1 to message each other and decide what's happened to you over the past months or whatever.
I think what's also important on the I think I talked about this, but what's important on the first session is like the DM just throws in like an instigated event, like something that instigates, something that starts something. The DM says, this is happening, it's affecting you in this way, how do you deal with it? And then start the first episode with that, or the first session with that.
Did you have any experience with the Dragonlance modules?
My brother played them a lot, and I really didn't like them. And I love the world.
Says the player. Tony Howell says the players are pretty much spectators, right?
Yeah. They are. I love the world and I love the setting, and but like it was kind of like it's a bit grittier than 5e. I mean, it's a lot grittier than 5e. I mean, I equate 5e and like Forgotten Realms to being almost like it's like the superhero simulator of medieval fantasy. You're superheroes. You are superheroes. You become. We talked about it, exceptional individuals. You become heroes.
That's coming.
That's coming. Yeah, a little bit of foreshadowing. But in Dragonlance, it did get like that. But the problem was so little content was made for that module back in the day compared to other worlds and other settings. The DMs had little. They had to dig for the information on the setting and for the world, other than the preface, sort of the sort of surface level stuff. So what ended up happening a lot was DMs would just go to things like pre-created content and just run pre-created content because it was much safer. Otherwise, there was like almost no point in sandboxing it 100% because you may as well just make your own world at that point. That was my experience with it. But that I played in that for like, because I've played like 20 years, maybe more, D&D with my brother. I've DM'd 5 years. So 25 years. How old am I? I'm 27. That's not right. I must have played just short of 20 years. In total, with 5 of it being playing. Yeah, I'm doing the math here. How old was I when I started playing? I started watching him play when I was like 8 years old. And it was very different then. It was very like pen and paper, very much calculate. Like, you know, the main trope of what the game was, it wasn't about killing the dragon. It was about calculating how many servants or hirelings you're going to have to recruit to carry all of the gold out of its lair, and the logistics of that. That was the session. That was the game. It was like, oh well, we're gonna need 4 wagons. We're gonna need 4 wagons. We're gonna need 2 horses per wagon. That's gonna be this much amount of gold. That was like AD&D. That was the challenge. The fighting the dragon, easy. The getting all of them copper coins out with not just you can't just get them all in your hands and just like scurry out with them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, when it like considers a mean like your DM's trick of like how to like get your players at the end of a encounter is to reward them entirely in copper coins and then watch them
entirely in copper coins. Yeah, and that joke exists because they did that. That's what happened. Like one of the more common currencies, right? The most common currency is copper, silver, and then gold is a little bit more scarce. So it used to be a lot of coppers and a lot of silvers, and that's where the sort of joke comes from. And it was a lot more anal on the encumbrance rules back then. It's very specific, a lot of bookkeeping, but that's what they loved about it. It was like at heart, D&D is a nerdy game, and I love that about it. But it was like fantasy football math nerdy back then. You know, you had the gang around there with their pens, being like, oh, "Well, so and so can carry 750 pounds because of his..."
Pulling out like the back sheets of magazines where it's got grids of information for carry weights and stuff like.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of died out of the game. I think there's even like variant rules on encumbrance. Some people don't even run encumbrance at all, like common sense. Like there's I think the way D&D does it is mechanics, narrative, mechanics. So the mechanics have to justify come first. Then the narrative story plays out, and then the mechanics, you're rewarded with the payout of the mechanics. But what it's sort of shifting to now is like narrative, mechanics, narrative, where it's like, okay, well, we don't have to bother about like how much could you carry, because theoretically we could just do an episodic, like, you know, in a sitcom, like time skip, where you got the team back in of like dwarves that carried it out. Yeah, exactly. Like, why are we doing that? People stopped, I think, as a group, and they said, why are we doing this? We're not having fun. Like, why are we doing this? We don't have to do this. And then one guy's like, that's a novel concept, Paul. You really? Do you think we don't have to do it? And he's like, what if we just didn't do it? And then they didn't do it, and they were like, wait a minute, now we're just having fun. We're just kicking dragons' asses. We're just saving towns. And we're not working out how many wagons we need to carry Trevor out because he went unconscious and get the gold.
Yeah, the notary of the group's looking at his big stack of papers where he's been keeping record of how they've been.
Yeah, but that guy's going to be mad.
Like, what? Yeah,
that guy's going to be mad. That guy's going to be like, excuse me, I come here to do my accountancy.
Yeah. Guess I'm going to roll a cleric then.
Yeah, there's a lot of talks of like, I think one problem with like 5e to almost be on the side of the bookkeepers, the side of the old-fashioned D&D, is just how easy it is to be brought back from the dead. Like there comes a level in D&D. If you've played any like original Baldur's Gate games, in fact, it's so easy to bring someone back from the dead when you have money. It just is in that world. And there's no like lasting implications on what negatives it could have on mental health or physical sort of lasting effects on your body. And I'm an advocate of like implementing extra, I'm sure
Matthew Mercer,
yeah, he has his own death system, and I hate it, dude.
Yeah, there's like, you can always bring someone back from the dead. I think he's got like a table of like negative.
Yeah, he has a DC requirement that gets harder for every time you've died.
And like that's one way of adding. I think I would be a lot more a lot tighter, right? I think I don't know. Obviously, this is the kind of thing that you want to discuss with your players, but like I always feel like it cheapens the game if there's no ramifications for like dying.
I'm the opposite, dude. I'm gonna like, but I understand where you're coming from, and I used to think like that. But like I'm not like trying to evangelize here and change your mind. But in my mind, D&D is less of a game for me nowadays, than it is for collaborative storytelling for a group of our friends to overcome issues, bigotry, villainous individuals, to tell a story communally. Yes, you need death. Yes, you need hardship. Yes, you need struggle. It's duality. Without that, you don't have the payoff. You don't have the wonderful part. I actually stole a death system from a Powered by the Apocalypse system called the Law of Concession. Now, the law of concession, or the rule of concession, is when a player dies, when they die, when they roll them 3 death fails, them death saves, and they're all fails on their character sheet, what happens is they have to make a concession. I say to them, yes, you can come back from this, but you will have a maimed leg. Or yes, you can come back from this, but you'll have mental trauma that you'll have to role play into your character. Or yes, you can come back from this. And it gets to a point where your character is so addled, right, that you're like,
would you let them? Would they be a part of deciding what the concession is?
Well, yeah, we discuss it. We negotiate it. Even it's a negotiation, and at the end when they say no,
put your Grim Reaper cloak on and
yeah, exactly.
And, like,
I mean,
really
we
get
even
into the part of like
we've role played it as
Yeah.
such. We've role played it as such. And then what also happens is I will say to them, it'll even be like a negotiation where I'm like, come on, this is where you die. It fits the narrative of the story. It fits this location. So less than it being like dun 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 dun, game over on the screen, it's more this is a fitting end for my character. And then I even give them this thing called the heroic exit, where it's like, say you're running away from a dragon that you're being beaten by. They can choose in that concession to be like, can I at least utilize a heroic exit? And that is like, I stay behind Gandalf style, you shall not pass, but I fall off of the rocky crag into the unknown.
And then my next character is Gandalf again.
And then, yeah, maybe. Well, maybe. That, we actually have done that, but not the same. Somebody come back as an Azimar, an angel. But yeah, but only because for me and from my table, it's less so a game where I'm like the bad guy. I'm not like Mr. Evil that's like trying to beat them or trying to give a challenge to defeat them. I'm trying to create a challenge that we can overcome as a story together to try and simulate elation. You know what I mean? Like to that feel good feeling after a movie, or the opposite. Because the concessions can often lead to a tragic ending or a bittersweet ending, or it's more collaborative storytelling for me than it is a game, and that's the way I come at it. And that's why over the last year, I've actually stopped playing D&D as much, and I've started playing games like there's a guy called Sean Tompkin who's solo produced a game called Iron Sworn, which is more of a collaborative storytelling game. And there's a lot of D20 systems that are more of collaborative storytelling games where it's role playing. You're role playing your characters, you're creating NPCs, you're DMing, but you're coming together to communally tell a story. Yes, there are mechanics and there are fights. You can lose, air quotes. I don't think death, and I think a lot of DMs need to get over this. I don't think death is the biggest failure in role playing games. I think death is. It can be good, but there are other things: loss of family, failure of objectives, and I'm ranting, but that's just where I go. It's more communal storytelling for me than it is. You've been defeated, re-roll. But it obviously depends on the games. I've played games like when you played in that Doom Vault with me.
Yeah,
that was a game.
That
was a game. It could have been a board game. You know, it didn't have to be an imagination. Even we could have said, "Hey, you're in the battle. Roll the initiative. We're going to do the fight." You know what I mean? It really depends on the game. But death for me. I think the topic started off as death, and I just went off on one. I told you.
We have finally, through a very circuitous route, we've finally come back to like again finding out the purpose of your groups. Kind of that's
exactly.
Like,
and then,
I cooperative storytelling is like the dream as a DM, right? That's the kind of campaign you want to run.
I only achieved it after 5 years of the same group.
Probably that's why you got into DMing, because that's you want to tell a beautiful story with your players and stuff, and you'll go through the stages of real.
I want to play out their stories.
And what have you. Yeah,
I'm like
you go through like hive mind, like so you it's like
I'm like
the
an
Galaxy
escort,
Brain meme, right? You're like railroading your players, and then like you're like building a story that includes your players, and then like the Galaxy Brain at the end is your players are actually telling the story, and you're
exactly, and I'm reacting to what they're doing for their story. I'm like an escort. They hire me, and then I facilitate a good time for them, you know. But that good time is role playing, but not that type of role playing though.
Well, you said
That's
it
the
now.
whole-
You said it now. It's out there, right?
That's how I run a table.
That was it. So, Rob, was that not a perfect example of kind of what happened when we were playing on Wednesday? It's like
Yeah.
we just kind of went off on these
Perfect
tangents. It
example.
was like it was really enjoyable, but we kept getting like so off topic.
Yeah, I mean, it was on topic. He was
It
talking
was,
about
like, yeah. To be fair,
he was
the
talking about
whole-
like how you like to run your world and how you like to write your world and such, and how we distribute information in the session 02 players. That, like, I was saying, this is how I do it, and like this is how I will like sort of pass that to the players that I want to aim for, right? But I just feel like DMs that like sometimes the DMs that like write their story in the session 0 when they start their session 0, it's a me and them sort of thing. When it isn't a me and them sort of thing, it's a us sort of thing. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, I'm gonna move on to the next video, I guess.
Yeah.
So we after that introduction to the game in general, there was a little more talk about the specifics of the world, and with the intent of giving the players the information required to make informed decisions when building the characters together. So I'm just gonna crack on with that, right? Are we ready?
Yeah.
As you walk around Sunnybrid, you'll notice propaganda posters plastered absolutely everywhere. This is one of them. This is presumably like a loyalist attempt to win over the people, to remind them that Right Flairford is still their king, right? But interspersed with these like posters that are like they're literally just plastered all over everything, right? There'll be ones that are like there are ones that are graffitied, right? There are ones with he's got a mustache penciled on over his mustache that already exists, right? Obscene messages scrawled on them, ripped up, thrown in the trash, that kind of thing. And you see these as well. Same thing though. These are not exempt from the graffiti, right? So it's a tumultuous time for the town. While spirits are generally high, there's definitely like two sides of the argument. People aren't sure. People can't decide as a whole whether the transition is a good thing or a bad thing.
You should name the campaign. It shouldn't be Dungeons and Dragons. It should be Royalists and Revolutionaries.
That's it. That's exactly it. But it's owned IP in it. I can't.
Yeah, you can't change it.
I'd have to write my own rule set, which I just don't have time for.
I guess if I'd have a question, I suppose, and it'd be less so towards you and more so to everyone else, right? Because if we're discussing this as a session 0 where we're going to be individuals coming together for a sole purpose of a campaign, would we as a group lean more to being royalists, more to being what even are they, revolutionaries, or somewhere in between, or a mix of the two? Like, what would people be interested in?
Well,
I
if
think personally. Oh,
go on, Ginny. Sorry.
no, you go.
I was just. What if we just play both sides, so we win either way?
Yeah, maybe.
Nice.
I reckon you'd probably just do whatever was the best for survival and to be able to thrive.
Mm.
So wait and see like how it pans out.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if you, the players, got to decide for yourselves. Like,
Yeah.
Rather than making him out to just 100% be a bad guy, let's make it ambiguous because like if you
no
wanted to
one's
play,
a villain in their own story, right?
Yeah, exactly that. So like if you guys wanted to be loyalists who want to reinstate the crown, that the campaign 100% has that capacity for you. So
do you plan to have like an instigating event that kicks things off? Does it start in media res, like involved in doing something? Is it more of it starts off calm, a little bit of a build up, and then something happens, or like? So I think often it's easier to know what you want to do and where you want to be when you know what the instigating event would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the start of this campaign is like very much a sandbox for you guys to.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we're running it from first, like we've worked on it as like it's a sandbox opening, and the central tension of the story is it's actually completely avoidable if you want it to be.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you the opportunity to like. I know some people who would much rather play like a Monster of the Week type campaign and not have to worry about like a main storyline and stuff. So that option's also available, right? But then it's kind of up to you guys to tension will certainly mount as you gain levels, right? And it's going to be up to you guys to decide if you want to engage with what's going on a more global level, or whether you just want to sort of stick to your sandbox and kill monsters. You know, that's if you have a specific story arc that you want to like kind of see unfold, that's like we can work that in, kind of thing. Like we could, the story doesn't have to be centered around the tension of the campaign setting. It could be about something that you've decided for yourselves. Right?
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in. Yeah, if you want to travel around collecting the 4 members of the 4 horsemen to complete a noble quest for the king, go right ahead.
Or alternatively, rob the royal treasury while the turmoil's happening.
Even better.
Yeah.
Don't let me tell you how to live your best D&D life. You know.
Yeah. Stealing from the rich, or eating them. It's usually always fun, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want that to be taken out of phrase. I mean that as a rebellious individual.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
But that being said, though, there's not enough D&D campaigns that center around getting gainful employment and contributing to society.
Open up a fish and chip shop.
Yeah. I mean, the town's lousy with fish and chip shops, so it's
but that's it, isn't it? That's when the gang warfare comes in, though, isn't it?
Exactly that.
We burn down the other chippies.
Forget the storyline. We're taking this off road.
Yeah, exactly. We open up a chippy and we just placate the royalists, lean into the transition, and make sure that we're like the global, like the Tesco of fish and chip shops when it all changes. This is not a genuine suggestion. If people stop me, please.
Someone on board.
I think it sounded pretty good to me. Let's go that way.
Yeah.
Fish and chip shop battling.
Yeah, chippy battle. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, what are the taxes looking like now for businesses?
You don't actually know yet. It's kind of.
Well, if I own a chippy, I would, wouldn't I? I need to start a chippy.
If you if you want to create a character that has established a chippy already in Sunnybrid, that's totally
without mining specifics. Would tax be high? Well, we don't know yet, but would tax be higher or lower after the the transition of power? Has there been any mandate pushed forth on what's going to happen to Sunnybrid?
You suspect it would be lower. But that's just...
It would be lower. Well, if I was a chippy owner, then I'd be, voting right.
That's true, but we're also I think we should all knuckle in for some real politics here. We've got issues already where trade is being thwarted by gangs of bandits on the road, right? How do you suspect
stealing our potatoes?
It's not fish and chips without spuds, is it? Right?
No, exactly.
How do you suspect that situation is going to get better by paying less tax? The guys up at the garrison aren't doing a very good job now. So how are you going to pay less tax?
Our group could be the bandits stealing the potatoes from other chippies. You know what I mean? Out at night. At day, we're behind the fryer. At night, we're out on the roads mugging potato traders. It's a win-win. We get more business; they get less business.
I mean, that's
somehow. I'd be worried about how conspicuous that looked when
maybe
because everyone was coming to us because we've got potatoes.
Yeah, we're the only ones with the potatoes. They might start asking questions. Yeah, but
how much? A whole separate side hustle, isn't it? Selling taters back to the other chippies.
Back to the other chippies. Yeah. Genius. See, I'm not the thinking man. I'm just the guy that wants to knock someone out for a potato.
You're there to facilitate. Someone else had to have the great idea, and you're gonna.
Yeah. The specifics, leave it to someone else.
The whys.
I go the
aren't your domain. The hows. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then it could be like we could get like the equivalent of a Michelin star for the chippy restaurant, and then we have to like you had that idea for the four horsemen.
Hang on, official star.
Say again. Yeah, official in star. And then you had that idea that you loved about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and we don't have to throw that out. Maybe that boss four horsemen of the apocalypse can be a thing, but we have to like house them at our chippy and like get their approval from each, and it gets a little bit tighter and tighter. They get more culinary expertise from these four horsemen.
Sorry, are you suggesting that they're like?
We have to serve them fish and chips. That's what I'm saying.
They're food critics. Yeah.
Yeah, they're food critics on Yelp, but whatever the Yelp is, And we got to, progressively go through them, and then when they give their recommendation to the king, and he comes, a bit of poison in the chips, we bail. I don't know why we do that. We just invite the king and give him a chippy.
You're the wild card, right?
The wild card, just because you can. Someone would.
Some crazy. I actually couldn't hear that, so you're gonna have to give me a brief
Yeah, I'll tell you after.
No, I'm talking. I'm being professional, pal. I'm talking about the video that we've just watched. I couldn't.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry to call your professionalism.
How dare you? I was being professional.
Yeah. We shall meet for a duel at some point.
Yeah.
1v1 on Rust, mate. The only way to settle a dispute.
You're like the third person to say that to me in like the week. Is that like is it a meme?
Dude,
am I a boomer?
What?
Sure it is.
Yeah.
1v1 me and Rust?
Yeah, it's Muddy Woody 2, isn't it? Rust.
Muddy Woody 2?
Modern Warfare 2. Oh my god. You're supposed to be a gamer.
Hey, don't gatekeep me, dude.
Yeah,
I'm a gamer.
Yeah. You don't get this popular culture reference, so you aren't a gamer.
I just play high quality gaming.
High quality gaming. It was a map on Modern Warfare 2.
Oh, Rust!
Rust, yeah.
No, dude, I'm a moron. I know what 1v1 me Rust is. Yes, Rust the map in Call of Duty. I was thinking Rust the freaking survival crafting game.
Oh, so you're too popular culture. That's what it is.
Yeah, it was too deep. I thought you wanted to get your dong out and beat me up with a rock.
No. I mean, I do, but not.
Right.
Rob, can you fill me in on just where we got up to? Because I can't remember where I did these videos to, and I apologise for that.
I hate this, but I also.
You weren't listening. Fantastic. So I believe we were just Erafina or Ali Scarlet. You could save us right now, but I believe we just got to the end of like the idea has been proposed for being a fish and chip shop.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, it was all the like clips of us like so after obviously the first video like we did the main intro, but you did get a lot of Sunnybrid information, and then that was just we ended with Wanyolo, I think, right? And I've just given you a bit more information about the world. Obviously, this is real awkward for you not listening because you don't know what I've edited out, but we talked a lot about Reich Flairford, right, and the four horsemen and things. And
yeah, Robbie was very interested in it, right? Like he was asking a lot about like the king, about Reich Flairford, about the horsemen.
Marcus, that's the ad bit. I wanted more, to sort of go down the rabbit hole of these were all his people, all of his four horsemen, obviously.
We found out he was one of them, right?
You what? Sorry.
We found out that he was one of the four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted just to like ask the questions that would like open out without being too much saying, oh no, this is him, this is that, because I obviously knew what was going on.
Yeah, so outside of that, like it was there's an interesting point here as a DM that you kind of have this compulsion to keep your cards close to your chest with the information that you're giving to your players, and
so they discover it naturally as play goes on.
Yeah, but then they're sat there and they're saying, well, I want to know about the king.
I think that's where you take a position of just being like, put your foot down and say exactly that. You'll learn about this stuff as play goes on.
Yeah, but you also like you're playing that like you're playing both sides that you don't want to you don't want to stamp on any player who's showing interest in the story. You don't want to stamp that out.
Yeah, I think you just reassure them, right, that it will be divulged in play, and then it's almost like unwrapping a present, right? What I do is I always take the position of where do we come from?
Where do we
What is
go?
our where do we go? What is our class? Like classes in like within the realm, like are we peasants, are we like soldiers, are we like nobles, and then what information would we know like from rumor on that thing, and then give it as if it's a role-played information that's being given. Like, oh, you've heard about talks that they're these mysterious figures that like manage certain duchies within the realms, or blah blah blah, right? You give it that way, and then you're giving information on them without saying the secret, the in-depth information that you know as a DM.
Ends. Right.
Yeah, you don't telling, this happens at this point and this happens at this point. You know what I mean?
There's going to be a civil war and it's going to start on this day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can be prepared. I'll get my pitchfork. Viva la revolution. So
Rob, you've as we already discussed, right? This is like a first session 0 for you, and obviously you were present for like the build up, but just interested to know like what your thoughts are on like having that opportunity before you create a character, right?
It's very good actually, because then obviously you can lean on the, well, I know this story is going to be about, there is going to be a civil war and potentially a big battle at some point, so it can sort of lead you into what class you're going to choose.
Yeah, you get that. That's kind of that's the dream, right? That's the reason that it just gives you an opportunity to like develop a character that's already integrated into the world somewhat, right? And that doesn't mean that you can't manipulate the world with your backstory after the fact, right? But it just means that you've already got a foothold of knowledge to leverage a character into the story like ahead of time. And you kind of it was interesting really, because everyone was sort of picking up all this information about the central tension of the story, and my initial instinct was that you would immediately like immerse yourself in that, and we had this like
I thought about that, and then my joke became a reality.
Yeah, exactly that.
You know what I mean? People were more interested in my joke.
That's good though, right? That's
yeah, because you said you wanted to go more comic reliefy with it, right, at the beginning, like with the jokes and the sort of the puns and stuff.
I think maybe a question actually. So you saying that, do you think, would you have been comfortable if you got the impression that other players were thinking the same thing, to have said?
I only went along with the fish and chip thing because everyone else attached themselves to the fish and chip thing. When they attached themselves to the fish and chip thing, because people said, "Yay, I want to do that. I'll go with that." At that point, I regretted making the joke. I would play through that game and probably have a bit of fun with it. Like, definitely have a bit of fun with it. But it wouldn't be my go-to. So I kind of regret making that joke because I didn't want to say, "Hey, I want to do this, so we're going to do this," right? And I made that joke, and then everyone was like, "Hey, yeah, we should do that." And I said, "I'm the kind of guy that likes to meld in and go with the group." So I did just that.
Yeah, I got the impression that you kind of made the joke because you were obviously
I'm making the jokes. It was called Sunny Brid.
Yeah, exactly. We had this situation where obviously people were maybe feeling a bit awkward because of the recording and stuff, and I felt like you were just sort of trying to coax people into like coming up with ideas,
saying things. Yeah, it was a little quiet.
Just.
And I didn't want to say too much, so I just went in with like a little bit of disarming comedy.
But with all the
but you're too much of a leader, Eddie. You know.
Exactly.
All the planning and everything throughout like the past few weeks to then have, obviously, the session 0, we decide we're going to open up a fish and chip shop. I think I can speak for chat as well. No one saw that coming.
I didn't see it coming. No, I thought it would just be a joke that we glazed over and continue.
Like I think the story is like so rich, and I wanted to test myself by exploring like a new genre that I haven't tried before, and like I think we've set ourselves up for exactly that. And I was sort of like, it is exactly that, right? It's out of my comfort zone. It's not the normal session I would run, and not the normal game.
But you could have still brought the story to the fish and chip shop, right? Like.
Oh yeah, no, that's like that's. I think I said at the end, like I've got immediately. So again, like this is probably what we're going to talk about next week, but I came away from that session immediately, and I just was like full of ideas of like how can we start session 1? Like you were saying earlier, with like throwing a wrench into the works and saying like we're going to go on an adventure now, right? This isn't. We're not going to run 10 weeks of D&D where you're all just running a fish and chip shop, right? Something's going to happen. And I went away with all these like crazy ideas of how we were going to sort of gently nudge you guys into action, right?
What was that one about going to get the business employment form from the other town?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, going to
getting the E45 or whatever.
Going to East Shire upon Avon to get a 86Q form to.
Exactly. And we get back, and then the Civil War's had our chippy bombed, and
Erafina's just said it's all going hacking, and we literally discussed.
Yeah.
So obviously it was Eddie's original idea, but sort of not necessarily a serious one, and all the other players jumped on it, but none of the other players are familiar with hacking. I know, so Rob is right from.
That's a different. But that's the difficulty with them jumping on that, though, right? That's the difficulty with them jumping on that, right? Because like it's a very specific way or very specific stylized story to play down, hacking style, like running a business, that comic relief sense. I tried to do a comic relief game with some players one time, and they thought they wanted it, and then when they got involved in it, they wanted something deeper, they wanted something more serious, but they thought they wanted the comic relief. Do you know what I mean? So I think maybe it was more like, because of the tensions of it being quiet and then me throwing an idea out, people just grabbed the first thing that came along. But unfortunately, the first thing that came along was a silly joke by me.
I see. So,
but it started that way, but it got to a place that was good. It did get to a place.
I don't want to diminish like the. So, and as a DM, this is what really interests me, right? I wanted to explore a new genre of playing as a DM and test myself, right? And I very much can see this being a campaign that like we can run 5, 6, 7 sessions where we're running this fish and chip shop and it's all a bit of fun, and try and flex my muscles as a DM and try and pick out when I think the players are getting not bored, but like are maybe yearning for that something more, right? And then trying to move the campaign on to like being a little bit more serious, because
there's even a published Wizards book for this.
There is,
like,
yeah.
The Dungeons and Dragons Acquisitions Incorporated campaign accessory thing that could help you run a game like that.
It's got a very corporate title in it. It's like a
that's it. That's literally what it's called. Dungeons and Dragons Acquisition Incorporated HC campaign accessory hardcover book.
Yeah,
that's a very corporate name.
Yeah, like I'm.
Start your own franchise in the Forgotten Realms or anywhere in your multiverse.
Yeah, so I'd probably take a look at that book and think it'd be interesting to see if the players kind of cool off on that idea, and how obviously it's only a fish and chip shop, right? There's no reason that can't just be like. But
we want to get a franchise, right? We want busy bees, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm talking in terms of like when the players maybe want to move on, right? It wouldn't be that difficult to move them on. Like you can literally put them into a situation where they can hire someone to run it, and that's maybe a source of income for their more epic campaign they run later on when they've decided they're done with the slapstick stuff and they want to be like a bit more serious.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to try and transition that into like.
Yeah. I don't know. I have an opinion again, but I'm talking way too much. Robbie. Do you have anything to say?
Let's get a player's opinion.
Come on.
But I mean, like, the way it could go is that, we build up the fish and chip shop, go out, hire people to run it, and then go out and quest and adventure.
Yeah, so
it does become like a secondary.
We're kind of almost metaing the idea that like the players are going to tire of it, and maybe we're looking at that through the scope of a DM, and having our own desires on how a campaign would run. We might have found an exact group of people who just want to play
the
Acquisitions Incorporated for week after week.
I think genuinely, and again, I said I didn't want to talk too much, but I'll try and be quick. I think genuinely at that point where you get to the point where it's like, oh, we're done with the fish and chip shop thing, we want to move on. I think you just retire those characters and make new characters within that world rather than trying to transition it. Because I've tried to transition styled campaigns from one style to another, and it just ends up being a rigid and unfluid swap because of it's so you're going from one thing, you're going up one path, and then all of a sudden you go zoop down a different path when the whole background of the character wanting to do the chip shop, right, becomes, well, now I want to liberate the people of the West because they are my blood kin. Do you know what I mean? You go from like, you may as well just start a new group of players or characters within the world. In my experience, but that just could be my botched experience trying to do big U-turns or different subject changes, because it isn't even like a subject change. It's like a
It's a
style
genre
change.
Yeah, it's completely.
It's a complete style. You're jumping into a different alley or a different, road of a different avenue even.
This is a group of players that I would feel comfortable just like throwing myself into it and seeing what happens, because
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, you got to learn by do, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's I know that 4 sessions into the U-turn, if I don't feel like it's going the right way, that I could have that conversation with players and say, like, do we want to just write new characters? Because
Yeah. May as well give it a chance.
It's you see the world differently behind the screen, don't you? And you could very well have that conversation and find out they're still enjoying themselves. And
I think the risk that exists though is if they're not, right, you could have had like an almost a more closure-esque ending.
That'd be fun to orchestrate, right?
By like sort of tying everything up in the chip shop.
Not enough D&D stories are brought to a close, are they? That's the like.
Dude, the amount of D&D campaigns that I've actually finished versus the amounts I've actually played is, a lot less finished than played.
I'd quite like to. So this is we're tangenting hard here, but like I'd quite like to see that very idea. Like if you could bring that campaign to a close and then establish the players, and we've had these talks before about making changes to the world, right? Our players' actions having like
masturbators in every city.
Exactly, yeah. Just to have like just as like a little homage. You may be playing a more serious campaign now, but like your new characters can visit the chain of masturbator restaurants, right?
We need to preface it because if we haven't said that masturbators,
we haven't said that
yet. Then my quote could have seemed real sus there.
Yeah. So
masturbators in every city.
They ended up naming the fish and chip shop masturbators, which should have a longer pause between the two words, I believe.
Yeah, well, that was Ginny's decision, right? You ask her how the pause is, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if Ginny decided on the name. She had a lot of ideas.
It was her favourite name.
It was her favourite name.
We just went on the weirdest one.
Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it.
So, like, for the sake of brevity, I think let's move to the next, because there's one more video before like the final one, and I was kind of going to play the final one as like an outro to the episode, right? So if we watch the next one and then we can just sort of talk open-endedly and know that when the next video plays, that's curtains, you know?
Yeah.
I believe it starts with like quite an entertaining speech from yourself about.
No, dude. All I do is talk. Just tell me to shut up if you need it. You know.
Has anyone ever actually been in a D&D campaign and finished? Surely that's an oxymoron. It does happen, man. I promise you. Some campaigns finish, and if your DM's a good one, the payoff can be unreal. So let's dive in, right? Let's watch the video entitled "Exceptional."
So the one thing I find with 5th edition, like from my experience of DMing it for like 5 years, is like when you play as a 5th edition character, even at level 1, you are an exceptional individual. If you compare yourself to a commoner and other people, and then as you level up, you become godlike. Like 15 to 20, you become like quite literally an opposing force of nature. So like, where would we, for the scaling of this sort of being in Sunnybrid? And I know we could be elsewhere, but let's say hypothetically, because we're focusing on Sunnybrid a lot, we are in Sunnybrid. My question again to the group more so than anything else is like, the chippy idea is funny, right? But you've even said it yourself, Ross, like, it will scale. The severity will scale. And we ourselves will go from exceptional individuals to downright rare individuals. Now, how did downright rare individuals, almost akin to like, ultimate warriors,
just
non-conspicuously run a chip shop?
Well, you'd have staff, wouldn't you? I think.
Yeah. So it's more like a venture enterprise. Like, has anyone seen Acquisitions Incorporated?
Oh yeah.
It's a slapstick comedy about them owning a business, right? Like,
Mm.
essentially, when you go down the brass tacks. So I mean, it definitely could go that route if people wanted it to. Like, there would be turmoil, and the DM would throw. You know, a lot of the responsibility comes from the DM throwing wrenches into the cog to make things happen, right? Like, we wouldn't just be selling fish and chips at like what, 2 silver. Like, well, that's a bit much,
That's a
maybe, but
lot.
whatever. We're not just going to be fine. Like,
fish and chips.
yeah, we're in Sunny Brid. We're probably like one
You
copper.
corner
But we're
the
not just
market, get rid of all
we're
the
not
other
just
fish and
gonna
chips.
keep our coins at the end of the day after every session. Like, you just have to sell them away. You know, the fryer's going to break.
Oh yeah, I was literally about to say that.
Yeah.
You can expect.
The fryer's going to break.
You can expect fryer fires.
The fryer breaks. We got to go and get another like imp from a volcano to fuel the coals. Like,
Turns out in this world, chip fat, like the fat they fry chips in, is actually dragon fat. The only way you can get hold of some of that is to go. Yeah, exactly.
So that's a campaign there. We're done. Like, a low magic world, and we need to go and get dragon fat. I mean, we're sorted.
Right, cut, print, send.
Yeah, send it.
on your characters by Monday.
Dear. I just don't know, like, how do people as a group want to go about it? Like, the chip shop thing has been a joke that has been focused on, but I mean,
you're concerned that the joke is now expanded.
Is that actually what you want to do? Yeah,
control.
I'm on board with it.
Yeah. Okay. Then there we go.
So I've actually started picturing in my head what the fish and chip shop looks like and everything.
Have you got a name?
I'll work on it.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to just band a name out there, do you? This has got to be Comedy Gold, right?
It's got to be the right name.
Does anyone have any idea? You know, on that sort of tangent of it being a chippy, does anyone have any ideas of what role they would like in the fish and chip store? You know, you need a cook, you need a manager, server.
I'd cook.
You'd be the cook.
Like that.
Yeah, not like playing an RPG to get out of your comfort zone and do the same job that you do in real life. I'll be kitchen manager. No,
and I mean, if it's in like a city, like a little backwater place like Sunny Brid, you're gonna need a. I feel like I mean, if a tavern has a bouncer, a chippy needs a bouncer. Do you know what I mean? If there's all these other chip shops and there's a lot of bandits.
I've just put. Right. Exceptional players.
It was just me talking a lot again.
You're talking. Well, you know, that's fine. You kind of filled the role of the unwittingly. You were kind of the lead from the back kind of guy, right? You didn't want to be the main character, but phrasing. You didn't want to be the main character, but kind of. I don't know. I think again.
The thing is, I didn't want to take too much control of the session, but I was the person there that had played for X years, right, and led for X years, who, and I was sat there at times when people weren't talking, and I was like, maybe if I start going off on one, people are gonna, you know, start getting on board with what I'm saying. Unfortunately, they got on. Well, not unfortunately, funnily, they got on board with the fish and chip shop.
Yeah, you keep having these like.
I don't know. It's only because. Listen, this is my pre-constructed mind. Culture my cultural inauguration to D&D has told me that we're going to be going and fighting God one day. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then we're managing a chippy, which I'd be totally down for. Like I said, I've done a campaign similar myself. It's just when I set it off as a joke, I was caught unawares when it was glitched onto. Do you know what I mean? It's like me mooning. It's like me showing my butt to you as a joke, and you come up and slap me on the ass, and I'm, oh, you know what I mean?
No,
like, I didn't expect that.
It wasn't an invitation, pal.
Exactly. It was kind of like that.
Yeah, it's a. I mean,
I was like, where do we go from here then?
As we said at the start, like this, it's kind of impossible to do this without unless you were to get a group of 4 full-time like streamers or whatever to do the group. You're always going to have like a little setback with people maybe not feeling comfortable with. But like again, it isn't really important. Like the subject matter of the campaign that you chose to run wasn't the important part of like what and I don't want to like, I'm not here to say that it was a roaring success or whatever. Like, we're here to discuss whether it was or not, right? But we ended up with a campaign of players who most of them had never played a Session Zero before, and we still came together as a group and decided on a story that fit into the world that we've created. And like, for that on its own, like, there's a lot of things that happened in the session that I've learned from and think, oh well, you know, I'll do this differently next time, especially playing online. That was I wasn't expecting that to be a curveball for me at all, and it ended up being.
I mean, I would say that it was a roaring success because at the end, everyone had a character, everyone was willing to do the thing they were going to do, and everyone seemed excited for it. So, you know, success differs group to group, right? So what is success? As long as all of the group is happy and willing to go forth with the plan, that's success.
Yeah, you don't sound happy though, Eddie.
I was happy. Do I not sound happy now?
No, I'm jesting. I'm jesting. But...
I'm an awfully unexpressive individual. I apologize.
Yeah, you wanted to promote other people's stories, right? And that's the
yeah. Listen, when I say like, unfortunately they hung up on the fish and chip thing, that's like, I'm using the wrong word. I was just very shocked and taken aback that after you presented to us a kingdom rife in change with a haiku and civil war and these 4 horsemen and such, and then it went there. It was just like I was winded. I liked the change.
But for people who are watching you, maybe haven't DM'd before, I think it's like actually a really helpful tool to kind of set people's expectations when like you are as well as you think you might know people or whatever. I'm not surprised at all by the direction that this went. But even if you think that you're sitting down with players who are going to want to be the chivalrous knight in your campaign world, you've got to be ready for. And we're kind of getting back to the whole point of why we're doing this session, right? You could show this campaign setting to your players and expect one thing from them, and then they all turn around and decide to run the fish and chip shop, right? And then it's on you as a DM. We discussed this a lot at the start about railroading and stuff, right? That you as a DM want to facilitate your players having the best time possible. And if your players have unanimously said fish and chip shop, it's called masturbators, and we want to run a business, and it's going to be slapstick, then go for it.
But were you okay?
Right?
Were you okay with that? Yeah.
You
was happy.
So,
I think that. Yeah. I just want to say. You're saying like you're one of the players. Yeah. You're one of the players as well.
Yeah,
the DM is a player.
If it wasn't something I was comfortable with, then that's something you need to consider.
Then it was a success because everyone was down for it. I was just again surprised that it went that way, because you know, with a Session Zero, the first thing I ask of a Session Zero is like, I don't even give the world. I just say, what sort of fantasy do you want to play out? What sort of character do you want to be? Do you have an idea without the world? Yeah, I don't even give the world. And then I tell them the world afterwards, and then still see if they want to be that player in that world. That's the way I do it. So what's your fantasy, basically? Again, let's not go back to the escort thing. What's your fantasy? I think we should
labour on that point, actually.
Yeah, what's your fantasy?
You're a fantasy
What do you want to do, and what do you want to get out of this game, right? And then they tell me, and I say, well, I had planned on it being this type of game in this type of world. And preface a bit of the world. I prepare some handouts. How do you feel about that character existing in that world? And then they may change. Maybe they say they're not comfortable with that character in that world, but they can change. Maybe they say, could we do something else? And that's where that 0.5 comes in, right? Where if I then work around them, rather than me being that DM that's like, no, this is what's happening. This is my world that's happening. You've got to make a character in that world. Maybe they can then change it. But again, it worked in the end. Like, we got to a place we wanted to be. It could have gone anywhere. Like I am a true believer that the beginning doesn't matter. There's this whole thing about like people complaining about the fish and chip shop may as well have been the tavern. You know, the tavern where everyone meets.
Taverns. I love the tavern.
Yeah, I love the tavern. There's this like whole stop doing the tavern. Stop doing the tavern. It's a trope. It's bad. It's not bad. It kickstarts the game. It's like the icebreaker of role playing. There's a lot to be said
for tropes in RPGs, especially when you're playing with players who are newer, right? Like,
they exist for a reason.
It's a lot like when you're building your campaign and you're creating your races and stuff, and it's like, oh, I want to make all of my races unique and stuff. It's like it helps players to give them a trope, because when you tell them the dwarves are like stubborn, grumpy, short people,
they can visualize it easier.
They immediately like, I know what a dwarf is.
Yeah.
And like the tavern start, like if you sit a group of players who've never played D&D before in a campaign and say, right, you sat in the tavern, and then you throw the wrench into the works, and you have someone run into the tavern and say, like, there's goblins attacking the church.
It is my forerunning belief as to why Dungeons and Dragons is more successful a role-playing game than Warhammer, because Warhammer tries to change the races and do something different with them, but people have been culturally inaugurated again, or built up or grown up with these tropes, with these generalizations from Tolkien, mainly Tolkien, biggest inspiration for it. And D&D ran with that. They picked up what Tolkien put down. I mean, the halflings were called hobbits until Tolkien was like,
oh, no, minute, boys.
Wait a minute, they're my little people.
I got 2 letters for you. IP.
Yeah, exactly. But like D&D picked up what Tolkien had put down, and they carried it a bit. And because it was familiar, people understood it. It was relatable. But then what did Warhammer do? Warhammer was like, let's make all of the dwarves Northerners. Let's give them their own grudge system. Let's make the elves evil and wild feral creatures in the woods. Let's make, you know what I mean? They shifted everything, and that's fine. It's interesting. It's fun. But it requires everyone to do a bit of source reading and to do a bit of learning. Whereas with D&D, you could just go, oh, it's an elf. They live long and they're pretentious. Oh, it's a dwarf. They're short and they drink a lot. You know what I mean? You only need to know as much of the lore of the world as you want to know of the world, because it's that thing we touched on. What a race is in structure is more so for the generalized sort of visualization that the DM will place forth for the players. Yeah. They can be an exception to the race.
For NPCs, right? That's what we talked about in there.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could be a dwarf.
NPCs are going to represent them.
Robbie could play a dwarf that acts like an elf, and no one would be like, "You're not acting like a dwarf, Robbie. You follow the law."
They would on the internet.
I want to just pipe in and say, I know it's a hypothetical, but I would never do that ever.
Rob's got 3 races, right? Dwarf, half-orc, and dwarf.
Guess my race.
And that's how he wants to play D&D, right?
Do you know what my race is? Guess my race.
Guess my race, steady.
No.
Guess my race. Careful, TOS.
I don't know.
Human. I'm the most boring person when it comes to a race. I'll be a human.
I like humans because it's like more of a blank canvas, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're so versatile.
You and that isn't to diminish any other races, but when I'm playing, like, I like human because it's like the stereotypical things that represent your race aren't a part of your character anymore. There's almost no stereotypes to humans. They're like a vanilla. Your character's entirely your character, and there's not. There's
also a lot of self-insertion phrasing. There's a lot of self-insertion in D&D. There's a lot of projection.
Oh, yeah.
And I relate to playing a human male. I've played female characters, and I'm fine with it. I'm not uncomfortable with it, but I'm not a female. I love women. I love women. But I can't relate to my character when I'm a female because I just don't know. I'm imagining myself as this female character, and I just can't relate with it. So I play a male, and I play a human.
It's not something I've ever done, and I think it's because it's not that I would feel uncomfortable role playing.
It's not uncomfortability. It's just I can't relate to my character.
I don't feel.
I'm self-inserting.
I don't feel qualified to portray one.
I'm too weak to role play a woman.
Like emotionally,
I'm too weak. I can't do them justice.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I just don't.
So like,
the last thing I'd want to do is be like an offensive stereotype, right? And
the one thing I've had many discussions about is imagine role playing an elf. We just as human beings cannot we can't role play an elf properly. If you read the lore of an elf and the amount of years they live, the thousands of years they live, we just cannot conceptualize the perception that they would have on existence from living that long. So what we do is we play an elf and we play it as a human. It's the thing I have an issue with, struggle with as a DM. It's like, how do you role play a dragon? Like, how do you truly role play a dragon? You take from tropes. You take from, like, we're talking about race tropes, right? You take from tropes. You take from what great writers have done, what great creators have created. Because I'm not a writer. I'm not a creator. I'm just some, like, guy that wants to role play sword battles and politics and have fun with my friends. I can't role play a 1,786-year-old ancient black dragon who has had more events happen in his life, has an ego that I cannot comprehend. You know what I mean? I can't be exactly that.
You can
But
try.
I can do my damn best. Do you know what I mean? I can do my damn best.
So me and the missus are watching through the extended Lord of the Rings at the moment again.
Yeah.
And I always like there's little moments that I always gravitate towards it. And so when they emerge from Moria, having lost Gandalf, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a scene where it kind of shows how all the characters are processing the loss. And there's like a really interesting moment with Legolas because it's like he doesn't understand, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not used to like all the hobbits are like in pieces because they've lost people before and it's happened again. And
what is
Legolas
a human
just
being
like,
to an elf but a fly?
Yeah.
Like they live like no time in comparison to them. They live no time in comparison to them. If you saw like an ant die, would you be like, oh no, it's one of those many ants that are all over the place that live for like 2 days? Oh, the shame of it. So like it's getting into that sort of mindset. Like Mordenkainen's Guide, like one of the books that expand on races, went really, really in depth onto elves in a really remarkable way. I don't want to obviously go off on the lore of them, but just to give you a perception of how they see things. But I don't know. Like one for me is like, again, you mentioned Lord of the Rings, the extended. One thing I love from like a writer perspective, like you said with the elf with the death of Gandalf, I loved Smaug in The Hobbit when he was flying to the village. I think that truly encapsulated the ego and the self-confidence of Smaug when he was flying to that village and he was saying, I am death. Like, I am death. I think in that very moment, he truly believed that he was just literally a force of nature. He didn't think himself a creature like everyone else. He thought himself a concept. Like, and that's just such good, like, I don't know. It's such good portrayal, I suppose, of these remarkable different creatures and aged things. So when that's when
Tolkien was supposedly not a good writer, right?
Oh, dude, yeah, but like, I don't know. What's the saying about artists not being really appreciated until after their time, sort of thing? You know what I mean? And I think that's the case. I think those like that was the early days of fantasy, though, right? So like there was a lot of people not on board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then more people go on board, and then they were like, "Wait a minute, this is genius." I don't know.
So I've just to dally slightly, right? I've just dropped as I've said, we're going to play like the full video of you sort of coming to grips with your characters as like an outro. But I've put on how the party ended up on screen now, and
beta.
There's one thing that we kind of nobody touched on during creating characters, which is obviously fine. Nobody was really interested in composition at all.
No, yeah, that's the thing. No one brought it up, right?
Yeah, no. I was a little bit surprised that no one sort of said like, have we got a spellcaster or what?
I'm like a big. You
don't need composition when you've got the stats that Nathan rolled. By the way,
I'm a big advocate for like throwing composition out of the window and letting the players do what they want if they want to, but understanding that composition can be important, right? I think, but our composition is pretty good though. To be honest,
it is pretty good. Yeah, it's just
like rogue is a time-tested classic that's never going to be wrong. I mean, we're missing a wizard, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was.
You always need a wizard.
You don't have a true spellcaster, right?
Yeah,
you've got a druid.
You have a half caster. No, I mean a druid's a full caster, I suppose. But like, what about all of those magical books that we can't write the spells into the books from? You know,
I mean, you can sell them.
And the spell scrolls are useless. We've got to sell them for money. What does money get us?
Well, another franchise.
Oh yeah, exactly. We actually did specify our group based around franchising.
Yeah, exactly. So
we got Barbarian. So when the Karens come in and the Kevins, the Barbarian can kick them out. We have a monk who can remain tranquil behind the till as customers complain. We have a rogue who can, firebomb other chippies so that we succeed in the local business. And we've got a druid who can, bait fish to the dock so we can hit them over the head and kill them.
So Nathan, our rogue,
Yeah.
He's
20 decks level 1.
Yeah, he's a fairly
Disgusting.
He's a fairly quiet character, right? Personally, anyway. So I wasn't super surprised that he was like keeping quiet. I was a little bit worried though, because I was like, he didn't really say a lot during the like session, and you know, you always have that thing as a DM, which is something that which is one of the things, as I said, like playing online. It was a bit of a curveball for me. I feel like I'm quite good at engaging people. Like, if we were sat around a table, like I would have done more to get people to sort of pitch their own ideas and things. But I was also battling with if people were uncomfortable because of the setting and they're being filmed and stuff, I didn't want to force them. You know, if that's the reason they weren't really talking very much.
You have to remember that the players have a responsibility to speak up if they do have a problem, right?
For sure. I don't think he had a problem. It's just nice to get more input from the group. Like, obviously, you were doing a lot of heavy lifting, right? But then he just sort of opened up at the end, and like he'd clearly been thinking about his character the whole time, and I was like,
yeah.
Right.
It's the spud chopper.
Yeah, he was just busy. He was just busy like re-rolling all his stats over and over again.
I rolled mine the first time.
There's no way he did that, by the way. That's like.
No, yeah, I rolled mine, and I was left wanting. But I'm fine. I like a good dump stat. I like a good like. I mean, I didn't truly get one. Maybe my charisma, but I think you can really role play off of a terrible.
Who wants to play? So Nathan's in this spot now where he's got to role play the everyman who's good at everything, right? And you've got an interesting low charisma and low intelligence thing going on, which is.
I think the everyman thing is like the thing is like even we're talking in player etiquette now, right?
Yeah, of course.
But even when there's something that you could do better than another person, you have to know that that's their thing, so you step back and allow them to attempt it. That changes though in higher levels when you don't want to die. It's like it's diffusing the magical bomb. Hey, that's my role. My background says bomb diffuser. Yeah, but you have a -5 in dex.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do it anyway. Right.
So I'm doing it. I'm the bomb diffuser.
It's the rogue as well with the high stats who just you get to a point as a rogue where.
Yeah, I mean, he gets jack of all trades. He's going to be good at everything.
It doesn't matter what ability you're trying to do. You just get to use your dex for it, you know. And like he's just going to do everything right. He's not. We had a good group, right? I kind of went easy on myself by having a group of players that, like, I kind of be trusted with that sort of thing. Like, he's 100% the kind of guy who would let people have their moment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you can also control it sort of as DM by creating like separate scened areas, right, where certain groups of players are like 2 of you are here, 2 of you are here, and then you meet up, and then 1 of you is in here, blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's your job as a DM, innit? There's loads of ways to do it, but you've got to. Like, if you feel like your players aren't letting each other have the chance of time in the spotlight, there's a million ways you can. There's a million ways you can force them into, you know, letting the druids do the animal handling instead of.
Every other week we used to have like a session, like on a different day, a 30-minute session where we would talk. We just talk. How's everyone enjoying the game? Any feedback?
Healthy.
Are you all feeling like you're getting your part done? Are you all feeling comfortable with each other's characters? Are you enjoying the story? Where would you like to see it to go? You know, constant feedback. It's a relationship, man.
Yeah, man.
It's a relationship, and a relationship requires constant communication. So having the meetings every now and then is very helpful, I think.
What's your take on the party, Rob? I mean,
personally, in what regard? Efficiency.
So I'm talking like on a higher level, right? So again, Rob's never played a session 0, so
right.
He will have played in games where the party is like a mishmash of people bringing their own like self-projected characters and what have you, and and we've actually got a party here that's been collaboratively created, right?
Yeah. So what are you asking me? Like, what is my opinion on the party composition as like efficiency, like from a game perspective, or as like their statistics? Or
so for a start, I'm asking Rob.
Oh, you're asking Rob? Sorry, I thought you were asking me, mate.
No, yes, because I'm interested to know like how he thinks how.
Yeah. Sorry, Rob. I thought you said me, dude.
Yeah, well, that's a god complex, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be a streamer.
Yeah, true.
You have to be a little egotistic.
You could just hear me talking over the fans cheering your name, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how it compares, Rob, to like parties that you've played in before? Just from that point of view, that like, you know, you're not a. I don't want to lead the answer right but typically you're more prone to have problems with like clashing personalities and stuff where people haven't been cooperatively creating characters. And obviously that's the other side of that coin is that like it could potentially feel like you have less freedoms, right, when you're doing it as a group, because you maybe feel there's an expectation from the group to conform to what everyone's like agreed upon. So I'm answering a question for you, but I want your,
Who's got the
opinion.
complex now,
Yeah.
Ross?
Okay, shut up, right? I'm talking.
Streamers, am I right, Robbie?
Yeah, I wouldn't know, to be fair. Yeah, I've never really thought of like composition of like you must have a widespread, you know, sort of everyone like a spellcaster, a tank, like all the different roles. I've just always thought like everyone, you know, playing as they want to play, because like you role playing, that's why everybody's here, innit?
Yeah.
I've really put too much thought into how you should have all these different pieces for the party.
I don't think that's necessarily like the case. Obviously, it's just one of those things that like you find as you're playing the game. If you've thought about composition when you're creating the party, you'll find that you're more able to deal with situations, right? But there's no reason that you can't have a four dwarf party who are all clerics, right? If
that would be
decide.
disgustingly broken.
Yeah, that's your job that's our job as a DM, right?
But that's the thing. I kind of agree with what Robbie said.
If there isn't a spellcaster, don't give them the like problems that need fixing with magic, right?
I kind of like Robbie's approach to it, though. People being just what they want to be, but as long as the DM prefaces or just asks them, do you have any idea of a composition? Do you want to play to a composition? Is that how you want to do it? Because like we're not playing World of Warcraft at the end of the day. We're not queuing tank. We're not queuing DPS. We're not queuing healer. People are wanting to play out a fantasy. Well, it depends. Yeah, in the olden days, AD&D, like when people like, excuse me, can you calculate that carry weight specifically to get those coins out of that dungeon? You don't seem to have brought the prerequisite components to cast that spell, right? That is a side of D&D.
Your party needs a 25-foot stick.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff, right? Have you got your 10-foot pole to detect for traps and stuff? But that's not how a lot of players that I've noticed in the development of 5th edition specifically, which is trying to get away from that style of play, to play, because of the mass marketing of 5e, because of Hasbro, right? Because of Wizards. They're not being advertised this game that was very gatekeepery, where, oh, excuse me, you didn't bring a 10-foot pole. I would have brought a 10-foot pole to detect that there was traps in this region because I'm better at the game than you are. That's like an antiquated style of playing D&D, in my opinion. Like, I mean, you see it in the change of the game itself. And same with composition of like players and stuff. But some people like that. Some people love that, and that I don't disparage them for it. But you know, there was a joke, wasn't there, about game stores. People felt uncomfortable going into them. I went into a game store here in Sweden to buy a Warhammer Dark Heresy book, which was no longer printed, just on the off chance that they had it. I was laughed at by the guy, and he says, maybe you should start with something a little bit easier. I was like, what the heck are you talking about? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know what assumption this man made. But he was like, and there's people like this who are like, hey, for example, sorry, you're playing the barbarian in this. You're Budrick, right, Robbie?
Yeah.
I'd be like, excuse me, you're playing a barbarian in this composition, Robert. I don't think you should be a barbarian. A wizard would be much more preferable. You're ruining my composition and therefore my experience. That I'd kick that guy.
Like, for sure. I think
you know what I mean.
I think that's like, if there's nothing wrong with being the kind of player who wants to think about composition, but I think you
exactly.
You have to be the guy. If you're going to do that, you have to be the guy that's willing to go, we don't have a cleric, I'll be the cleric, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can't force other people to play the way you want to play.
But there are clerics in the world. There are churches. If our friend dies, we can take him to the church to have a cleric resurrect him.
Again, that's where us
the DM
DMs we need to take a step in and say, like, you know, I'm not gonna this party that doesn't have a cleric, or like this party that doesn't have a sorcerer is not gonna encounter loads of walls that they need to teleport through and stuff.
But to go against everything that I have literally just said, to be my own devil's advocate, if you don't have a wizard, you're missing out on a very large chunk of efficiency, of like versatility. But you can do it without it.
Where do you stand on like DM run players?
Oh, DNPC.
Just to add the wizards who's available to.
It really depends. It really depends. I've done them before.
It's
you just have to
dangerous,
make
innit?
sure.
It's like...
You just have to make sure that they're in the background. You just have to make sure that they don't take too much precedent. You have to make sure that because they
need to be interesting enough that the party want to keep them around, but they need to also be a patsy, right? So
yeah, exactly.
If, the players can click at them and say, "Can you like?"
Temporary companions as well sometimes work. Like there's NPCs that come along for a while but don't stick around. I think the problem with the dungeon master is at a point going to see the problem is a dungeon master does, and I've been through this a lot, and I've been the problem where you don't see the game the same way the players see the game, and because you're controlling that NPC and you have a slight bit of insight in anything, you could use that NPC to aid the party. But I think if you use that, I tried it once. If you use that with a new group, my Swedish friends, if you use that NPC to guide the group and to aid the group, you're essentially not promoting them naturally coming to their own conclusive ideas.
Yeah.
You're hinting to them, and then they're saying, "Okay, well, let's just turn to that guy." Do you know what I mean? Hey,
yeah, you don't want to. So it's like the problem with that is like obviously. Any situation where you're taking things away from the players is always a problem, but the specific problem in that instance is like also for your players, it's impossible for them to forget the player knowledge that you're the wizard. And it's like you can create a situation where the players subconsciously
but
are
at the
aware
end of the day,
that the wizard knows the answer, and like if you're trying to get the solution to a problem as a functioning human being to know that the wizard knows the answer because the wizard's the DM.
But at the end of the day, right? Like class names are just class names. The profession is the true thing in the role play, right? A ranger. It depends how you want to run your world, but in Forgotten Realms, a ranger doesn't go around and say, "Hi, I'm Ranger Bill. I'm the ranger." You know what I mean? Like a wizard is a wizard.
I'm primarily a wood elf, and second of all,
yeah, exactly. It's not an identifier, but that's another iffy one. That's a real touchy subject that you're actually dabbling on. That's been taught on many a professional podcast of like game designers, which is what is the point in puzzles in Dungeons and Dragons? Like in 5th edition, what is the point in puzzles where the players will sit there for 2 hours not understanding the puzzle, when you have the benefit of the doubt with your level 18 wizard who is able to travel the multiverse using arcane magics hidden behind eldritch lore, yet he doesn't know how to do a Rubik's Cube, even though he has 24 intelligence because of magic items.
This, like you're RPing a character.
You come out from the character and you go into a game.
But but the person at the table's intelligence is like a 12 or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's that question. Why do I have to make an intelligence check to do a puzzle? Why do I have to actually solve the puzzle at the table? Instead of making a strength check, can I just punch the DM in the face? And if I punch them hard enough, I pass it?
Yes.
Like, what if I'm a really ugly, uncharismatic person in real life? But I just want to escape that, and I want to play a charismatic, dashing rogue. But I can't role play that because I'm like, oh, excuse me, can I hold your hand? Do you know what I mean? Roll a charisma. No, excuse me, you didn't say it charismatically.
You're not charismatic at the table, so
yeah, exactly. I think you just have to take. You have to look at as a DM. You have to look at the stat of the character and be like, yeah, you're intelligent enough that you'd probably just be able to work this out. You decipher that with this, and this, and I think that's it's a very touchy subject though. Like again, you're exiting a game and you're going in more of a narrative thing, right? Where you're just saying, yeah, you just pass it. There is actually technically a passive stat for every single stat in the game, and it's the same way you work out passive perception. It's at the very back of the DMG.
It's like, is it not 8 plus proficiency plus?
Plus stat. Yeah, stat. And that's the passive perception for everything. Like you don't make the players. So yeah, there's checks for exceptional things where they could succeed or fail, but you don't make a roll where you could where you can't succeed, and you don't make a roll where you can't fail. You don't say, hey, you wake up in the morning, make an athletics check to get out of bed. You know.
Yeah,
and I think that's the same for like.
Meta now, it's like.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the same for like, oh, you come to this puzzle, and yes, it's fun to do puzzles in real life, but the wizard is a genius.
I've been there, by the way. Like, this is something that anyone who's like DMing for the first time, you're going to put yourself in a situation where you put like a puzzle in front of your players and you're really excited about it, and they can't work it out.
And then they just like hate it.
I like, because so it's if you know your players and you've established that you think that they're going to enjoy as at the table trying to work out a puzzle as a group, right? That's great, and definitely include that in your campaign. But my personal advice would just be to make sure that you've got a back door, right? You need to give yourself a get out of jail on it.
Yeah. That is genuinely my opinion. The worst part about Tomb of Annihilation, the module. The module is amazing. It gives you this verbose world, different culture, immersive locations, and then toward the end, to spoilers, it's called Tomb of Annihilation. You go in a tomb of annihilation,
and something gets annihilated.
And it's just it's a series of the most pedantic and infuriating puzzles that D&D has ever seen. And it is an homage to an older module, the Tomb of Annihilation. And it's considered like the joke is it's where you take your high-level characters to die. And because it's an homage to an older time, it's very telling. Because you go from it's like you're playing a completely different game.
Were you paying attention earlier because you need the information from earlier to?
Yeah, exactly. But and then there's the argument. Oh yeah, but my character took the feat observant. I never forget anything. I have a photographic memory. There is literally a feat that is a photographic memory, and it's like, oh well, I've seen that thing. But then the DM gets frustrated, and they're like, yeah, but that was meant. This was meant to be 20 minutes. Do you know what I mean? This was maybe 20 minutes of the session. Yeah, but I have that feat that lets me have an observant memory. I've read that book. Can I know about that thing? And then it comes.
Here's my hot take: puzzles, right? Like I said, you need to have a back door out of there, right?
Yeah.
But I would, and this isn't necessarily something I've done a lot of, but like just thinking about it now, like I think I would make the rewards for players at the table finishing a puzzle completely different to the rewards for characters in the game completing the puzzle, right? If the puzzle's to unlock a door, characters in the game complete the puzzle, and there's a backdoor way for you to let them do it, and the door can be unlocked. But if the players can figure out the puzzle at the table, there's like an item reward that then you're giving them an incentive to engage with the puzzle as players.
Tomb of Annihilation's every single puzzle has an item reward. It even has stat buffs and stuff, right? Like cool stuff. But all my players hated every single puzzle. Like I've never, and I've run many different groups. No one has ever enjoyed a puzzle. No one has ever enjoyed a puzzle, like genuinely. And I mean, it's kind of like the working out how to get all of that money out of the dragon's hoard. That's a puzzle. You're having to. It's a mathematics thing. If Timmy is going to the shop at 3 p.m. and walking, and Tommy is taking the bike, but he set off 15 minutes earlier, how long does Timmy get there before Tommy? Do you know what I mean? They don't want to come here for that. They want to come to. I don't personally want to play D&D to do a Jenga puzzle or and I think it just really, if you get momentum and you get fluid motion, you're role playing. I also get this in dungeons personally, like this puzzle dilemma, like you're role playing in the town, you're having fun with the NPCs, you're learning about the troubles, the politics, the world, and then you get to the dungeon, and the whole dynamic of the game changes, not for the worse, but different, and you start realizing you're playing a game. You start realizing you're rolling dice. You start realizing you're on a grid, that you're moving 5 feet, that you've got range on your spells, you've got range on your weapons. And it's the same thing with puzzles. But when you get to puzzles, it's like, yeah, but my character would know this. Do you know what I mean? Or like how do you do that on the opposite end, right? I always play it in the favor of the players, because if you don't, you have the issue of causing potential just unnecessary walls of frustration. Because what if for example, my character, no, actually, I'm not that stupid, am I? Where's my intelligence? Yeah, -1 intelligence. Imagine if my character came up to a puzzle that was solving an astrological wall mural, right? My character is going to look there and drool. Do you know what I mean? There's no way I could come up with the idea as a player, unless it was a a printed out thing. But then it would be untrue to my character. So you just have to give it. You just have to give the benefit of the doubt, or create an option with the because going back to the composition of the pie, right? You have to design the adventure around the composition of the party. If you had 4 orcs and all of them had -3 intelligence, you wouldn't put them in a puzzle riddle labyrinth.
Let's go Puzzle quest. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And they all just like have smoke coming out of their ears, you know. But there's a lot of material you can find out there on the internet about people discussing puzzles and their usage in 5th edition and in D&D, and it's very much like Marmite. You know, you love it or you hate it. But some DMs love it and their players hate it. But it's that duality, right? Of like hating it. You said it with the items about hating it, but if you overcome it, right? And then you get that elation. But then there's the risk that they hate it and they don't overcome it. And I've been here. So you create some DM magic excuse as to why they get around it, and it feels just cheap and dirty, and everyone feels like their time's being wasted.
Cheap and dirty.
It feels cheap and dirty. But yeah, I mean, and that's why I say in composition, it's nice to have a wizard just in case your DM throws a puzzle in.
Just in case your DM's like puzzles.
Yeah, there's a puzzle. Our wizard will sort it.
Yeah.
He's smart.
He's got 22 intelligence, don't worry about it.
It's
Even
like
if-
Richard
even if he rolls a
Johnson.
10.
It's like Richard Johnson. He's got 20 in his dex, right? Like, are you going to make him roll to, like, you know, jump over a gap? Do you know what I mean? It's like, if it's a DC, like, 12 to jump over the gap, he beats that on his passive acrobatics anyway. You know what I mean?
I mean, even,
But then it's like...
could he slip
but
on a
then
rock, right? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But then it becomes like super like bookkeepy almost for the DM, right? If you're going to use passive everythings, right? Because the DM's got to be like, well, does this passive beat this? Does this passive beat that? Does this passive beat this? And that becomes not fun for the DM, and the DM needs to be having fun as well as the players.
What stellar note to end that tangent on, right? Don't forget to have fun as a DM, right? That's
you should be. Everyone should be having fun together.
Rob, you've been listening to us chatting again. I mean, is there anything you want to add to this? Like, I've got, I do have a note from Ginny that she sent me about what went on, you know. So I'll quickly read through that. And
yeah, read that.
It's a long one, but you've got nothing else to contribute. And while I'm reading this, if there's anything that anyone who's watching wants to ask, remember this was your campaign, right? While we've got 2 people here to discuss, like, not necessarily about session 0. If you've got questions about that, then great. But you've got an opportunity to ask about the campaign setting we've created. Because I don't have any real questions about the campaign setting. I think, like, because we were talking about it for hours on Wednesday, so there might be things that maybe I've clipped out of the video that you guys want to know. Like, what did they think of Barn Banderson? You know. I'm going to read this first, because just bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves, you know. What was your favourite part of session 0?
What was your favourite part, Robbie?
My favourite part was probably when Nathan said about because you said peanuts joke at the start. That's why I named my character Richard Johnson.
Yeah, Richard Johnson.
That was fantastic.
Dick, basically, yeah.
That's what I like alluded to when I was saying, like, because he was real quiet and then he just sort of came out with his character and was like, obviously.
Me and him really ran with the dick thing.
Yeah.
Richard Johnson and Master Gilbert Beta. Oh, even tying it in to be a fisherman. Double entendre.
Go on.
Oh, go on. No, you go on.
No.
No, please, sir. I said you go on, sir.
Okay, all right. So, she said, as a near novice player, I found Session 0 useful in building a picture and direction in my mind of a whole new world, and supported building a character to fit into this world, who I'm sure I could have a lot of fun playing. It was brilliant getting to briefly know the others I'd be playing with, their rough ideas on how the game could progress, and their characters' aims too. As sometimes when you get playing, it can feel like everyone is drawn into their own characters and doesn't always have a wide picture of the group. The biggest con was not being able to get stuck in with any quests or challenges right away, which is something that I definitely, if I was running this normally, I would make sure that there was some element of like dice rolling to happen. Like, even if you just give your players like a goblin per character to fight, once they've like finished making characters or whatever, just give them something.
So it's like that 30-minute session thing, right? But like you can condense it to be even smaller, right?
Yeah.
For each character. Or...
Just
I mean,
like
that's the
everyone,
session, or the session 0.5, right? You just go in from it to like a little an hour in the tavern or an hour in media rest. That's a thing that people do a lot in session 0. It's the in media rest. Like if we already like in motion, if we'd already met each other and we already knew each other, you could say, "Hey, here's that instigating issue," right? And that's where you're probably, in comedy movies, it's the whole like Robbie's character looks at the camera. You're probably wondering how we got here, that thing.
We're just 4 fish and chip shop owners from Sunnybrid.
Yeah. That's one thing that the DM did one time that I thought was amazing. He had like the players make up level 1 characters and communicate to him what they were making. And then he made level 20 characters for those characters. And he started off the first adventure with them fighting a pit demon that was ransacking the city, and they were role playing their level 20 characters.
Wow.
And they fought this massive boss battle. And then they died. Some of them ran away. They were broken. And then he took the character sheets away and he said, "This is an ending, but it is not the ending. You are the arbiters of the fate of your characters." And he handed them the level 1 sheets and took them back to the beginning.
Yeah, and
that's very cool. Literally the record scratch, like
that's like the video game thing of you get all the powers right at the start for the tutorial.
Yes. And then they take it away from you. Yeah.
Level 1 now. Now tell me how you ended up at the end. Right.
The issue with that style is you have to do it with experienced players, because if you give them a level 20 character sheet with all those abilities on it, and they look at it and they're like,
a 4-hour session.
Excuse me, what's a level 7 spell?
One round of combat takes 4 hours because they're all just like, what's going on here?
Exactly. But I thought that was an amazing way to introduce a campaign.
That is, I love that. That's good. I've always wanted to like try more, like starting a campaign with like a patsy player who knows what's going on and like have a character die and stuff. That kind of
stuff.
That's a classic. Like, you have someone who's on the inside. I think Robbie.
Have you ever played Curse of Strahd?
I've not, no.
In Curse of Strahd, it is literally recommended in the book to have a player on the inside, because what happens in Curse of Strahd a lot is players. So you know who Strahd von Varovich is, or whatever, von Strakovich. He's like the first vampire. He's very powerful, locked in this demi-plane, and he draws you in. And he's there always. He's omnipresent. He's omniscient. He's like godlike in his domain. And he interacts with the players all the time. He comes over them, talks to them, discusses morals with them, philosophies with them. He's a creepy man. Now, he's got many different motives and goals. He's a creeper. But he could just rip your throat out and insta-kill you at level 1. Like, he's a higher vampire and a named one that is like a I think he's like CR 18 or something, and then like you can even modify him to be the warrior or the spellcaster and make him CR 22, which is like crazy. And he can just instantly kill you. So the problem is that players will. One thing that new players don't like and old players alike is authority or provocation or threat against them. Because they think, we're the heroes. You know what I mean?
Supposed to react,
exactly.
Killing this guy.
I have to stand up to this, and then they do so, and then he does a claw attack and rips your jugular out, and you're dead. So what is recommended to do is have one guy make 2 character sheets, not tell the rest of the players. And when you meet him at the first point, when he ambushes you, because the wolves ambush you, and he's one of the wolves, because vampires can shapeshift into wolves and bats, and he comes out from behind the tree and starts poking you. He starts like playing with his food, basically. He's trying to mature you ready for drinking. And a lot of the times players will just attack him, and then they're surprised when they get wiped. Yeah, and they all die. So what they do instead is you take that one guy and he squares up to him, the paladin of purity and goodness. And then he just picks him up by the throat, gives like a very threatening speech, and just snaps his neck with his hand, right? And then the other players are like, and he looks to them with blood on his face, and he's like, I hope the pleasantries can now begin, or something along those lines. And the players are like, okay,
suitably BBEG, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you give the other character comes in next session, and he pretends, or they pretend, she pretends that they had no idea that was going to happen. It's a really good way to sort of instigate, like you said, a BBG, a big bad, right, or a threat. I've never done it.
No, it's something I've wanted to do like for a long time, for the longest time, just to have that like what a dramatic way to start a campaign with like a player.
Yeah, with a death.
But without having the feel bads of you just deciding that one of your players like has spent 45 minutes in session 0 writing a character sheet for you to take it away from.
Yeah.
Would not advise that for anyone if that's not obvious.
I'm also a little bit of a slave for a Deus Ex Machina sometimes, like one of the players dies or something, but they're God chosen and they're resurrected for purpose as a revenant, or especially in like Curse of Strahd, or like something befalls them negatively, but somehow they overcome it through some sort of plot armor. You know what I mean? But not all the time.
Yeah.
If it serves a story and pushes the story forward. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mean, good chats, and we absolutely need to have you back on at some point, Eddie, because this is all gold. Good conversation, right?
I never talk D&D with anyone.
I could talk all night about this, but people are going to want to go have tea and go to bed and all that kind of stuff. So, and finding a natural time to finish is awkward. So.
I mean, don't you have a video that you wanted to end on?
Yeah. I'm working my way there.
Let's just bite the mattress. We're going in dry. Let's go.
Well, I've got to do my professional. We're gonna lead off now with our final parting video. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you to you guys for not only for being available for the actual session, which was ours, but for being here tonight and just sounding out what happened with me. I hope that everyone enjoys the last 15 minutes of character creation, because it was somewhat entertaining to be a part of. Everyone clearly had a good time, so it was a fun experience for me to do, and it's something I want to emulate again in the future. Try different ways of approaching it.
This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so thank you for inviting me to it. I've had a lot of fun. Genuinely, it's made me think about how. I've had a singular group for a long time, so it makes me think how other groups think about it, how other DMs think about it, and that's always broadening the perspective. They say travel broadens the mind, and I'm traveling into another group.
We're doing traveling right now, yeah. If the real dream is if this can in any way serve to be a resource to anyone who wants to try DMing, or maybe is a DM and just wants to again travel and get other people's opinions, then that's a dream, right? Hopefully there's people out there who feel like they've gained any kind of insight, right? Whether it be what not to do, right, or what to do, right? Just that's the dream, to get more people playing RPGs and not feel like it's not something that's for them, right? It's accessible to everyone, and I think everyone has something to gain from playing RPGs. So with that said, I want to thank you all as well, everyone in the chat, for being here, and especially those of you who contributed to creating our campaign. The players unanimously enjoyed the setting, so well done to you guys. And to anyone who's new, we're here every week, Sundays at 6 p.m. British time, which at the moment is BST. Sorry about that. We'll be back next week, and I think that we're going to roll straight into using this group as like a proxy. We're going to roll straight into ways that we can engage our players. Like we talked about, this idea of throwing a spanner into the works, right? We're going to work on ways that we can engage our players by creating a catalyst for them to spur into action and start playing our campaign, which will be very exciting. And from there, we can move on to creating encounters and dungeons and all that kind of stuff. So thank you all for joining, and I'll see you all next week, hopefully, right?
Yeah, been a pleasure. I'll tune in. I'm free on Sundays.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So I'm gonna roll that video now, and from me, it's going to be a bye-bye. Say bye, guys.
See you later.
See you later, everyone. See you later, Ross. Pleasure. Rob, pleasure.
Thank you all.
Yeah, nice to chat.
So we've kind of we've kind of skipped over like a lot of the stuff that I was going to say because you like for good reasons because you've just kind of converged on an idea together and are running with it. And I was gonna sort of say to you like think about your own the story that you want to tell with your character and stuff when you create your character, and if there's something that you want to like instill in the world to be a part of your backstory, then like go right ahead. Just you don't have to tell me now. You can message me like you can be thinking about your backstory all week or whatever, and just message me and like I can write stuff into the story.
So I kind of came up with an idea on the idea that it was like Forgotten Realms, right? Not your world.
Yeah.
But what that was essentially like a half-orc monk who is plagued by the rage of being a half-orc. So he takes the martial practice to like calm himself, right? To focus himself. And he also has calligraphy. He does calligraphy, that stuff. But that could easily be like twisted to what we've talked about me being like a lazy fisherman, right? I'm the fisherman orc of like that supplies the fish to the hooked or my cod or what was your favorite name again? Sorry.
Try. I mean,
Oh no worries. But yeah, like I could
it is masturbator.
Masturbator, exactly. I could be like the fisherman, the lazy fisherman that needs to be kicked into gear every now and then, and be the masturbator that the masturbator needs.
You are the masturbator.
I could be the masturbator.
Like
exactly.
You're the.
I'm really lazy because like I put my skills in like animal handling with fish, acrobatics, and like athletics and like survival, right, and nature. So I could be really good at like getting fish in. I'm a masturbator, but I'm lazy. So I need like one of the other players to come and like kick me at the ass and say, "Get to work, you lazy piece of shit," basically.
Well, I quite like the idea of being a turtle and like coming into work but living away and being very resourceful and finding whatever we could find to cook with and then serving people up whatever it is that we've gathered that day.
I love the idea like with turtles in D&D, like now that you've gone down this like Ross, sorry, you've been like you like the slapstick sort of comedy level, when they go in their shell there's like a whole house, like for some reason everything gets larger, there's a pantry and stuff.
And so like you don't all, again, like you kind of converged and that's great, so but like you don't all need to know each other. You can
yeah, but normally, that's what I'm saying. Like
normally you're battling the other way, right? Like as a DM, you kind of like asking your players to like try and form a few relationships, just because it gets you into the campaign quicker if some of you know each other, right?
It could be that like this is a startup chippy, right? And I'm like a lazy fisherman that hasn't got work but needs work, and then maybe like Rob's character wants to start up a chippy but needs a fisherman, but he doesn't want to pay too much, so he goes to the lazy fisher who's actually really good if you kick him in the ass. Do you know what I mean? You could connect it like that, or we could just say that we've already done that and we're already doing the thing.
The choice is yours, right?
We have the whole turmoil, there's change coming, there's obviously people that don't want change, there's people that do want change, there's people taking advantage of change, right? If there's a criminal underbelly, a fish and chip shop makes a good front. You know what I mean? It could look like a fish and chip shop on the top, but then down below there's like a underground criminal rink or whatever, or like a loyalist tavern or anything of the sort.
So you've got to come in and place the right order, right? And then you get
exactly. You got to ask for the I don't know, the golden haddock on the top right shelf or something. I don't know code names. Again, I got the ideas, but people come up with the details. I think it's an idea of a backstory for my character. It's just like kind of like I don't know. It depends. It depends where the party wants to take the general goal of us. Is our goal literally? What is our goal? Like to become wealthy? Is that our goal? To become wealthy from our chip store? To have a prestigious chip store to be proud of? Like,
yeah, probably like a full like.
We want a franchise.
Just be known about all corners of the land.
Yeah, I think our goal should be to be able to gather the most potatoes and be the most successful when it comes to
So just fame at any cost, right?
Then my role in this is perfect because it can be self-projection of my teenage self. A lazy individual who's good at one thing but never does it, and he's called masturbator. Like my mum could just be like, pestering at me to get a job.
This is actually an intervention.
This is just bread, all right.
It's just
You're taking me home.
We set all this up just to have an intervention for you, Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh god, and then there was Dad.
Oh, all these paternal figures abound in the campaign. You just wait till you meet Wright Flareford and you're conflicted about whether you want to kill him or have him be your daddy. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is this something I can masterfully bait?
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why.
That's my idea. That's my character idea, though. Like reluctant chippy owner, not the reluctant hero.
Reluctant.
Yeah, all that comes later, right? Your motivation now is
exactly.
You're gonna have at level 10.
Later, eventually, from my lays, I actually start getting invested in the fish and chip store, and then along come the royals, and they say we're closing down fish and chips. We're a steak enterprise now, and I'm like, no. I'm not. I can't bait cows. I can only bait fish.
Ginny's committed to a tall.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
And like a resourceful, I guess, right? Like a resourceful tall character, who's like I'm just a sounding board, right? But like the kind of the fixer of the business, right? Like if you need something doing, like the total will find an answer. It might not be like the prettiest fix. There's a lot of gaffer tape and like.
Yeah. Has anyone seen the Labyrinth?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so can you remember like the bag lady, the trash lady?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing.
the trash total.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it a lot. So
I wanted to know what she was called. Just to Google it. She's literally called the trash lady, the junk lady. My goodness. That's a good image.
So what's your like? What would be your? Is it so? Have we decided that the fish and chip shop's already established, right?
Yeah, I imagine so, right? If we've already got somebody that's fishing, somebody that's collecting things for resources, we have a chippy. Maybe it's not doing great right now.
Is it? It could be early days,
Early days, yeah.
And are you all committed to like? Or
there's got to be one character that's like comes from daddy's money that doesn't want to be there, but they're we know their dad, and then they're there but they don't want to be there, but it's like a pulled string sort of thing.
Yeah, like an investor who's an
investor, exactly.
I'll invest, but you've got to take my son because
because he won't work.
He just won't get a job.
Well, that could be me. That could be the lazy half with a worried dad. All he does is he's down at the port, the shoreline, masturbating all the time. He needs a job.
He's quite the fisherman, but you can't tell him that. You can't tell him he's a good fisherman because he's already got an attitude, right?
Yeah, it's literally being negged by my dad. Negged.
I'm through with creating the character.
Oh, you just jumping in.
Yeah, I was just sending it. So I'm definitely going for like the cook sort of. He's just been around. He just lives in Sun. He's been to all the fish and chip shops, and now he's at this one. There's like nothing special.
What's going on over in Nathplease town?
Oh, I'm just I'm doing the background now for Richard Johnson. I'm going to call him
Richard Johnson. Good name.
It was just like
powerful name.
Powerful, yeah, strong.
Very well rounded.
I decided it as soon as Ross said there was a lot of dick jokes, so I thought,
oh yeah,
okay,
he's going to fit right in.
Dick.
It's not a requirement, by the way. There's not like a. That's how the first person gets kicked, right? We have a little serious chat after session 1, and I'm like, I said there'd be dick jokes. And they were like, 4.
You did this. You have to understand that you did this. There's now a guy called Master Bader and a guy called Dick, you know, brass tacks.
How are you getting on, Nathan? Not to rush you. I'm excited to hear what penis. Like, what's his story? How's he connected to the group? You know? Or is he connected to the group?
I figure if he's going to be chopping vegetables, right?
He's your main tater chopper, right?
He's been doing it for a long time, so he's got high decks. So he's an elf who's been brought up by humans, and they owned like a really terrible. It might not have been a fish and chip shop, just a restaurant, and he was just in the back chopping carrots and all sorts all day. That's all he did. But this restaurant was terrible. Like no one ever went there. So he went and I don't really know the ins and outs.
Yeah, he did his coming of age film with Michael Cera.
Yeah. He went down the wrong path and was, I don't know, nicking from another restaurant. So, but he was doing it to try and help the family restaurant get better. But then his parents didn't like that because they're quite honor bound, so they kicked him out. So now he's just trying to get by. But the only thing he knows how to do is chop potatoes.
But he's good at it.
But he's fucking good at it, yeah.
Does he have potato in his blood?
Thick starchy.
Yeah, thick starchy.
Yeah.
You cut him, and it's just when you get a minging eye in a potato and it needs to come out before you cook it. It's just full of them. It's just riddled with like roots and knots. Maybe he's the ringer, right? Maybe the three of you are like you're already there with the business. You've got your total, who's basically like your operations manager, right?
Maybe we see him stealing from our bins.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
You've got your specialist in the kitchen. You've got your specialist out there masturbating.
He's stealing our potatoes. We need someone who can steal potatoes.
Hang on a minute. We're struggling, right? Maybe this kind of outside the box thinking is just what this restaurant needs, right? We need, because maybe if your family aren't so keen on you stealing all the potatoes, so that you're the only restaurant with potatoes. Maybe you found a business that does think that's a good idea. Right? You've got that panache, that je ne sais quoi that the masturbator really needs to get over the line in this struggling economy, right?
And that's a pretty good pun because I'm a fisherman, get over the line.
Get over the line, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was
I meant that.
Yeah.
With every fibre of my being, Don't let me dictate your story, guys. I'm just sort of. I'm
liking it.
I'm excited. I'm bouncing
on my end, at least. I don't know about the potato thief. Johnson. What was it? Richard Johnson. Richard Johnson.
Middle name Pecker.
Richard Pecker Johnson.
Yeah, so I mean, that seems like quite an interesting place to start your adventure, right? Because we need a catalyst for why, session 1 isn't just going to be you guys working in the shop, right? Something exciting's about to happen. So we're going to start playing D&D. So maybe everything's been struggling along, right? It's all been a bit samey, and maybe the arrival of Penis is what's going to be a catalyst for things to start changing.
It could be like you need to get to start. I'm starting a self-employed business currently, and it's a bit of an ass to deal with. And it could be that we need to register our business, but because we're in a place that's currently without any governance, really in the middle of a turmoil and shift, that we have to leave Sunny Brid to go to a place that currently is within the change and get that formalized business certificate so we can come back and legally sell fish and chips.
First session is an hour in line at the business registration.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
you're going to
exactly.
interact with all the NPCs.
We get
that are in the
sent
queue.
to the people upstairs. They say you got to talk to the people downstairs. I say you say to the people downstairs. No, you got to go to the people in the back wing. What are they telling you?
Is this a 27 queue for? You don't feel
Yeah,
like
exactly.
27 queue. Come on. What they're doing downstairs, you need to go back down there and ask for the 35p.
It's literally a mission in The Witcher. I'm pretty sure that is.
I think we've got like a pretty interesting party, right? And you've got there's something dynamic happening, right? If like you guys can think about like what the dynamic is in your group, right? You don't necessarily have to be like best friends and stuff, but this is the sort of thing like you can go away and before we'd play for the first time, you can like chat in the group chat and decide like maybe two of you are good friends and the other one's not, and like you've got this new person who's come in, right? Maybe just do any of you know him from a previous life or anything? And you like you can sort of decide amongst yourselves like what your interpersonal relationships are, right? Before we play.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got plenty to go off for like how we're gonna kickstart the campaign now, right? Got all sorts of ways to hook you guys into the story. I've only got till tomorrow to get it all ready though, because we're playing 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We open up a chippy and we just placate the royalists, lean into the transition, and make sure that we're like the global, like the the Tesco of fish and chip shops when it all changes. This is not a genuine suggestion. If people stop me, please.